Mike, turn your games down.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the 50th comic episode of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who is counting to midnight with me tonight?
My name is Joe Butler, and I'm as queer as a $3 bill.
Kenneth, sanity, frequent guest, audience applauds, roll on snare.
Excuse me, Mike. This is Chris. I have to record a podcast 90 minutes ago.
That was good. So a couple things I want to say before we get into this. One, we are doing something that I have actually, because throughout the show, if you listen to every episode I produce, I have made jokes about there being lost comic episode. This was one of the 10 that got lost that I recorded 3 years ago at this point during the lovely 2020 plague of the end of the world. And due to circumstances, I had to delete them, essentially, and they weren't published. One of my co-hosts had left, and that was part of the agreement. Like, he just asked me just to delete the stuff that wasn't published. And I've been meaning to get to this, and I decided that what better thing to do than the 50th episode to finally talk WatchMen again. And this time, actually, I will release it. So,
I should damn well hope so.
Hey, yeah, I was very upset about that, but it is something that I did to be polite, I guess, is the word we're going to go with. So that's what happened. But it's always been getting to me, and I've been holding back on this one. But one, I didn't want to read it again, so there was that. That played a big part in it. So we are going to deep dive into the comic as we do on this show. And this came out in 1986, ran to 87, written by Alan Moore, and the artist was Dave Gibbons. And I actually have a copy next to me, which is not something I say majority of recordings on this show. I actually bought a physical copy of this book.
Wow, you found one in print?
Yeah, I was surprised, And hey, and this one even says, now an HBO series on the cover. Oh, weird.
Oh my God.
Wow. Mine does not.
Your probably doesn't even say there's a movie out at the time, I'm assuming.
I don't. No, it does, because this particular version was published in 2014.
This book is always in print. It has to be.
Also, for some reason, if you're deciding to listen to this and not have ever read the comic, content warning, because this comic is royally fucked up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Thank you. We're probably going to get into some stuff. Oh, but before we go too far, I just want to say, Ken, I have 2 beers, Ken.
Jesus Christ. It's never going to fucking end.
Are we getting crunk this podcast?
Yeah, if I got to talk about this book, I was either debating, do I want to get high or do I want to drink beer? And I decided to go with beer.
Well, that's all right, Mike. I'm drinking beer, too. I'm drinking a nice, cool can of Hamm's, America's classic premium beer that was born in the land of sky blue waters.
Well, looks like at some point during this, I'm going to go upstairs and waddle and pop open a 5 milligram.
So I have a couple things. First, I want to kind of go with our introduction to this series. I read it 3 times now at this point, but my first exposure to Watchmen was when the movie came out, which I've still never seen in theaters. I worked at Target at the time. They had a big end cap that we did where the Watchmen DVD was going to be there. And then we had another DVD. It was just a comic where it was somebody narrating the comic and you see panels.
Oh, the motion comic.
Yeah. And that was my first exposure to Watchmen. I didn't see it. I was like, oh, okay, it's Watchmen? All right, I don't care. And it wasn't until years later I finally read the book. That's my origin story. Joe, what about you?
So I'm the baby of this group as usual. I believe I'm at least a good decade younger than you guys, and I feel always silly about it. I was in high school when this movie came out, and I remember this being like the highlight, because would Watchmen? No, because Spawn existed, but Watchmen was that time when people in high school heard it was a super violent superhero movie, and they all got us excited, so everyone in high school was excited about it. So, and I never got to watch it, and I still haven't seen it to this day. I've only seen clips.
I don't think you're missing too much.
Yeah, my exposure to this was I would have been probably a freshman in high school at the comic book store, and I was like, I'm bored with Marvel and DC. Like, comic book store guy, give me more mature stuff. And he gave me Watchmen, which I was probably not ready to read at 14 years old. But I read
Yeah.
it then, and then I read it again in college for a class, and then I saw the movie. And so, yeah, I've read it at least 2 or 3 times. Once, like critically for a class, and then saw the movie and thought it was not great. It's a relatively straightforward adaptation, but it's Zack Snyder, so he can't help himself.
That's why I've never seen it.
Whoa,
I don't like him.
Whoa. Let's calm down with the Zack Snyder talk, all right? We don't need to stir anything up. Like,
I mean,
we don't need an entire subsection of Twitter Blue subscribers to come after us.
all right, I'm not going to say it's good or bad,
Well-
but if you like action slowing down into slow motion and then going super fast, the WatchMen movie has it. If you liked it in 100 or Superman or any of his other movies, or Sucker Punch, he likes to do it.
Sucker Punch is me and my husband's favorite movie together. Our favorite couple movie. Sorry.
But also kind of fitting because you're 2 gay guys, so
Yeah.
that's more fitting than I fucking hate that movie. I never finished it. I was like, this is fucking terrible, and I turned it off. But
Also, when I say we love that movie, I don't mean we love watching it. We love sitting there making fun of it. So
Okay,
that's
fair.
yeah.
Man, you scared me for a minute. I was about to say, but I like your taste and stuff. How could you be so wrong?
Yeah, that so the premise behind that, if I can get to it real quick. So I never saw the movie. My husband introduced it to me, and what makes that movie funnier, he's like, it's funny if you imagine her, like when she starts dancing, she puts her head in between her knees and she starts vibrating like uncontrollably, and that's why everyone's mesmerized, and that just makes the movie 1,000 times funnier.
okay.
I mean, I just pictured her like Elaine dancing, and everyone is like, "You're the greatest dancer."
I've only watched that part of that movie once, and I just turned it off. I'm like,
Oh my
no, I'll just
I'm never gonna watch that movie the same again. So,
And Ken, what about you?
my experience with Watchmen. Sorry, I'm gonna
After he murdered
I'm
you,
gonna be all right here. My experience with Watchmen. I'm old enough to have read a friend's individual issues of this. So my first experience was with the individual comic books. It was not when they were first coming out. These were already, bagged and boarded already. Like I was 6 years old when this came out. This is not a good book for a 6-year-old. Plus, the 6-year-old would not appreciate a lot of the interesting things that goes on. And honestly, I got to tell you, every time I read this book, there's something new that hits me. Like, this is probably close to double digits for me. I, too, read this critically in a college class. It was an entire class about graphic novels, actually. It was pretty great. But I wrote a really nice paper on it. I read that paper today. I was like, wow, Ken, you're stupid. But, yeah, I've read the book. I've seen the Zack Snyder movie. I've seen the director's cut. I own the ultimate cut of the movie that splices details from the Black Freighter cartoon back into the movie. I've watched the show. I own the motion comic DVD. Like, you can say I like it. I like this.
Is the show good?
I love the show.
Okay,
I heard it was
watched the
good.
show.
I didn't watch it because it said Watchmen on the cover. So
I like it a lot. I think it does some really interesting things.
And if I remember, one I just looked up on eBay. This is actually not that expensive. Like the actual first comic issue, it's not that expensive for a first appearance of something this big. Somebody's selling it 9.4 for $150. Graded, that's not bad.
That's not bad at all.
See, here's the thing, though. It's not a Superman. It's not a Spider-Man. Mike, for you, it's not even a Hawkeye. This is something that does not really have that mainstream appeal. This is a big deal to nerds like us. And I think the reason for it is it's storytelling, the likes of which we had not seen at that point. It's become one of those hallowed institutions for us. Like, it's not, an Action Comics 1, which is going to get how many millions of dollars at an auction. $150 for the first issue, it seems fair.
It just seems weird to me because even the first appearance of Carnage costs more.
Well, Carnage was Woody Harrelson, Mike. Of course it was.
Oh, I remember.
Oh.
You go hear our review about that terrible movie.
Yeah.
Weird ass movie.
Maybe reprints. Maybe they reprinted this a lot because I know it.
This is one of the number. This trade is always, the trade itself is always in circulation. Because if I remember correctly, there's some kind of deal with Alan Moore when he created this for DC, the Vertigo, that he would get the rights back when they stopped publishing it, but they tricked him and they never stopped publishing it.
Right.
Something
Yeah.
like
Well,
that.
he brought it on himself by making such a successful book that they're like, well, we're just going to publish this forever.
Oh, that makes a lot more sense.
But isn't that the deal? If they ever stop publishing it, he gets the rights back?
I think that was the essence of the original deal. And it's so funny because people are like, Alan Moore is such a grouch, but it's like so many comics reporting people are like, are you mad at DC about this? And it's like, yeah, they've literally taken, probably hundreds of millions of dollars from him
Yeah.
and said, well, we don't have to pay you that.
Oh, yeah, because it's contract work.
Yeah. And, I don't blame him. I don't blame Alan Moore for any of the bad feelings he has toward the industry. Watching the movies based off of his works, I understand why you would want your name scrubbed from them. I get it. I saw From Hell. I understand.
Yeah, I just remember hearing about that, but I don't know. I knew a little bit about the details I've heard about, because I know he hates the comic industry now, but I don't blame him. I mean, you get ripped off like that, you're going to hate them too. And this is not Image wasn't around yet, so not like he could publish this himself, because these are all original characters.
Right.
I mean, none of these are, DC staples at the time. I mean, sure, they're close to it. Okay, Night Owl is not that far away from a Batman.
Well,
Oh,
and-
no. All of
so,
these characters have basis on other characters.
Yeah, it's like, so DC had bought a bunch of other, they obviously bought Captain Marvel about a decade earlier, but in the early 80s, they bought Charlton Comics, which was a pretty small publisher that Steve Ditko and a few other people had worked for. And so Steve Ditko created like the Question and the Blue Beetle and a few other characters. And then I forget who all. I think the Peacemaker from the HBO show was another one, Charlton character. Yep. And so DC had all of these characters, and Alan Moore kind of pitched like, what if I make this? And they were like, I don't know if we want to do that. And he's like, okay, then I'll just change all the characters so that they're not the characters And they're like, oh, that's fine.
Like, I got a breakdown right here of who everybody is.
Yeah, but some of that I think it's very light. Like, I don't think Silk Spectre is that much like whatever like femme fatale Charlton character she's supposed to be. She's more like Black Canary or someone like that, where it's the daughter of the Golden Age hero.
Yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't really have any powers either. Okay, no one has powers, I should say, other than Dr. Manhattan.
I don't know. Rorschach's got, some kind of power.
Yeah,
he's just crazy.
Ozymandias kind of has powers.
Yeah, but he's just like smart.
Yeah, he's like the apex man. He's kind of the Captain America, where it's like he's the best guy, but does that mean he's super powered? Who knows?
Yeah, and essentially, I'm assuming Rorschach also be one of the characters that would fall on that, the starter pack of characters. If you idolize, you're the part of the problem type thing.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, Alan Moore has said that he wanted to make sort of like what Batman would be like in the real world, and that he would have no friends and he would smell bad. But he didn't expect that like comic fans would be like, actually, this guy's even better than Batman.
Yeah, like Rorschach's got a lot of problems. But that is the second time that I've talked about Rorschach, and Joe's been like, I want to hear this. Before we get into it, I want to hear. I don't know. Maybe that's better if we go along. But I really am looking forward to you defending Rorschach, because
are you covering up a Rorschach tattoo?
No. If I can get the character basis, if you listen to our Red Hood episode, it's set up in that kind of way of where I'm kind of okay with like, oh, I'm not talking about the Penguin. I'm mostly talking about shooting the Joker in the face. Yeah, there's some guys who deserve to get shot in the face.
Like, I'm not disagreeing with that, but like the way Rorschach.
Oh yeah, no, it's all the other stuff too. Yeah, so it's kind of like, like it's like a 20%.
Okay, one question. Like throughout this, there's a random like newspaper company that he sends a journal to, which has the oblivious ending that we'll talk about.
The New Frontiersman?
Is that supposed to be like a Nazi publication essentially?
No,
it's a right wing.
Yeah, it's InfoWars on paper.
Oh, okay. I couldn't tell because it sounded like they were going for fascism, like they were a fascist type group or something. Because they were like, at one point they find out Russia. Oh, he read our paper. Oh, he's a good guy then, type of thing. I'm like, is this supposed to be kind of a joke to something that happened, 30 years later? That good guys.
There's a line from one of my favorite movies. They are so far right, they're almost ultra left.
Okay.
I mean, it's the satire of the 1980s is just the world we live in now.
Yeah. Which is fucking distressing.
Like
What were you saying, Joe?
One thing I like about this comic that a lot of people need to understand too is this is very 80s. This is This is Frank Miller's future Batman. This is Superman with a mullet and the big iron S on his chest. Like this.
Yes.
This is the epitome of like hardcore 80s comic.
Yeah, this is where I am home.
And I had a weird question because I don't know if we'll bring it up ever during like as we pass through this. Is this taking place in like a reasoning as to why something's going on in the universe? Like, is this where like Nixon stays president or something like that?
Yes.
What do you mean?
Because Dr. Manhattan, when he's created, he stops the Vietnam War. So therefore, Nixon doesn't get, because they stopped the war, Nixon's involved. He wins more terms. Essentially, he's on his fifth term in this case.
Yeah, Nixon is so praised for using Dr. Manhattan that Congress actually does away with term limits. So,
are you serious?
Yeah. It actually says that in there.
And
like it's a little quick blink and you miss it. Congress talking about passing or getting rid of term limits for Nixon.
Oh.
Yeah. And, I mean, Moore is not really subtle about his commentary, especially in like the Golden Age, in the Under the Hood book and everything. Like a lot of the heroes are borderline fascist. They're so right wing. So it's just like that. He's not being subtle when he's like superheroes. If they're real, they are in lockstep with the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's some. I'm trying to think there's something else I just thought of that. See if it comes back to my head. Nope, didn't work. Okay. I had a thought. I'm like, well, and then nothing. Just could not find it.
Like my favorite thing about this book, and when I started it really kind of hit me again, is like I can just imagine Alan Moore sitting down to start this up, and he's just like, man, what if I just made a book where everybody was just the goddamn worst? I'm going to do that. And this is what happened. Because everybody in this book is awful. Everyone.
All the characters are.
Every single damn one of them is horrible.
Oh, and to add to the history thing, the reason why Nixon's still president is that in this world, the comedian covered up Watergate, so Nixon never got caught with that.
Yeah, they do make a one-off comment about Woodward and Bernstein being found dead in a garage.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Like, it is subtle, it ain't, boys.
So, yeah, I mean, I feel like the comedian, if he was still around in 2020, I know who he'd be. I know what side he'd be on. So that's really awesome.
Well, he'd be an old man on Twitter now. He'd be like
on Twitter. Would he be on that other social media that someone else is on? I can't remember the name of it.
Oh, Truth?
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called.
I'm pretty sure it's The Truth. Is Dick Fart social media.
That's where the comedian would be.
I don't think so. I think the comedian would be on Twitter because he would know that his reach would be wider. But he would 100% be paying for that little blue check mark.
His profile pic.
He'd be with like the Wheel of Fortune guy, just like retweeting, like made up things about Portland seceding or whatever.
His profile picture would be like the picture of him from like the 60s in like full uniform.
Yeah.
So I have never been a fan of this book. So I read this 3 times. This was the first time that I read it. I think the first time I read it was on my phone, so it wasn't good, but that was my own problem. I'm reading on a freaking phone. I read it on a tablet for this reading. I did read a couple issues of the trade, but I like the tablet. It's a decent sized tablet, big enough, so it didn't hurt it. But I don't enjoy this book. I also don't like things with really dark asshole characters that aren't named Bruce Wayne. So we'll see how we go, but just kind of like start with the first issue of this, like everything with the comedian about how you see him get killed. And I also don't like how brutal this book is. I don't really like that. It turns me off. I know that's part of the whole point of this comic.
It is. And I'm intrigued.
I don't like really brutal stuff, I've noticed. And maybe the fact that this is like all the characters are essentially kind of far right in a way, maybe that turns me off too.
I think my favorite part about reading this is I was going through like the first chapters, and I think one thing that's interesting is the comedian's outfit changes a lot. And as soon as I saw him here wearing a Gimp mask, I was like, "Oh, Mike's gonna hate that."
I did like that one random woman that yeah, the owl guy was sleeping with, and he kind of makes a comment of that wore like a dominatrix outfit. I was like, okay, that's cool. But no, I didn't care for the comedian at all. I saw that mask too. I'm like, oh, come on.
Mike,
I just didn't like the guy.
Are you repressed, Mike?
I just didn't like. I don't like the comedian.
You're not supposed to.
No, I know. I like Night Owl though. A guy in his 40s who's depressed and had a bunch of money and built a freaking like airship. I like him.
Did he have a bunch of money?
He did at some point.
I have a lot of questions about this book that I'm kind of like, I don't understand some stuff.
Feel free. I have two people here that can probably answer your question if I can.
We answer one of them is like, did he have money at one point? Also, does he live in a house? Because I feel like it's weird to have an apartment that has like a bat cave and you live in an apartment.
Yeah, it looks like he's living in a house. Like it looks like a New York brownstone that he just bought. And he has to have money because he bought that. And he bought the warehouse that the subway goes to. Like he built all of that owl crap. Like he's gotta have money.
Yeah, no, yeah. They say he inherited a bunch of money from his father. And then instead of like investing it, he made himself a superhero.
Yeah, I mean, he tells Lori that, and he seems, kind of embarrassed. But that's way later. So, are we gonna? I guess how do we want to do this? How do we want to break down going through all of this? Because that's like chapter 7 or whatever.
Let's just talk. I don't think I really want to go through this page chapter by chapter. Even let's just talk and see where we end up.
We can just start. We can start. But the one I was put in the chat. The one thing I like about this book is every other chapter is basically just a character's arc, and you kind of get what each character's doing. You get some of their backstory and some of the future story and all that. So really, technically, the first part of this book is basically just about the comedian and his murder.
And as far as beginnings go, oh man, this is a good beginning.
I don't like it, but I will give you that as a good beginning. Yes.
That first page with Rorschach's journal entry and then the cop looking down the building, just a hell of a thing.
And again, that's great graphic storytelling because on the first read, you have no idea what you're looking at. You just see the comedian's logo going into a drain, and then Rorschach walking past, but you don't know that's Rorschach. You don't know that that's blood yet. You don't know that he fell out of a window and is basically just there cleaning up the mess of the splatter that's the comedian.
No, you don't know anything. You just see that stupid smiley face with blood on it.
So it's I feel like I said, and this isn't Stan Lee where he's like, true believer, you'll believe that someone could walk through some blood. What's this? It's not ketchup where it's not calling attention to what it is you're looking at. It's framing it like, hey, there's sequential storytelling going on. Time is passing. You also have a futuristic bust that you can't really see. Later, it becomes clear that some things in this world are like futuristic and different from our world. But you don't really know like why yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like it really just sets up a lot because looking at the guy who's using the hose in front of the building, you could think, oh, that's a butcher, and he's like cleaning off the sidewalk for some reason.
Yeah.
He's got like a little paper hat and an apron. And, you look a little further and, oh yeah, it is. He's in front of a deli in the next panel. You can see that.
Oh, okay.
So then you're like, oh, something must have happened outside the deli. And then you look up and that last line of that first page, that's quite a drop. Oh, no.
Yeah, then it just like goes into the whole thing of how the comedian was killed and all that. And I feel like the first chapter is the first chapter introduces you to all the characters. Or not all of them, but a bunch of them, like Rorschach and Night Owl.
And you have a bunch of people's opinions running around back and forth because you have, people who used to run around with the comedian in the heyday. You have the one part, which is probably the start of where our conversations, this whole podcast is going to get controversial, which is the Silk Spectre. What is her name? Jenny?
Juniper?
Sal?
I was going to say Sally. I don't know who you're talking about. Lori and Sally.
Yes.
Her and her daughter, where they're taking the conversation of where she says why she wants to go to the funeral because you find out the comedian ended up raping her when they were younger.
Yep.
Yeah, when they
attempted.
Yeah.
No, not attempted.
Well, no, he attempted to rape her, and then he got the shit beat out of him by the hood, and later on they had a relationship.
Oh, okay.
No, it wasn't really a relationship, but we'll get there.
Okay,
yeah,
she fucked him. How about that?
Yeah, that works.
Okay. We'll go with that. So yeah, because that's kind of, and then it introduces Dr. Manhattan too, and how he's not human.
And what I really think is clever is how they introduce everybody through Rorschach.
Mhm.
Like, this kind of, it puts everybody in a very uncomfortable environment, so you automatically see them at their worst.
Yeah, because Rorschach breaks in everywhere. He breaks into the plant, I mean, the army base where Dr. Manhattan is. He sneaks into Ozymandias' office building and sneaks out a window. Yeah.
He breaks into Dan's house.
Multiple times in each
Yeah, he
week.
just keeps doing it.
He keeps buying new locks. He's breaking them.
Yeah, for a guy who's rich, he sure can afford a decent fucking front door.
I don't think it's that hard to break down a front door, though, either.
Yeah.
It can be.
I've never broken a door, so I can't speak. I've broken a wall with my shoulder, but it wasn't on purpose. I was pushed through a wall.
And again, I mean, people always, I think, give Alan Moore enough credit, but they don't give the artist enough credit for how good a job he does. He does such a good job of like not glamorizing anything. Like he makes sure that Rorschach's clothes always like he's always just like looking tattered. And then Night Owl is like probably 30 pounds overweight. Like he's a big guy, but he looks kind of like Clark Kent, but like fat.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing where, and then even Sally or Lori, whichever one is the younger one.
Lori, right? Younger one?
I believe it's Lori.
Lori's the younger one. She is, I don't know if she does in the first issue, but she's like constantly smoking. She doesn't seem like particularly, she's not being like sexy for the sake of being sexy. She's just like a nervous wreck.
And she's smoking like Fifth Element cigarettes, fucking for some reason.
Yeah, because it's the future.
The future.
It's a futuristic version of the 80s. No, it's the second issue that you were talking about at the funeral and stuff where she's visiting her mother.
Okay.
Because the first issue is very much Rorschach and how you're introduced to everything. And then I think the second issue, now that you guys brought that up, that kind of I'm curious now. I feel like maybe that's more of her in the second issue where you're hearing things from her point of view.
Probably.
Yeah, because she talks about the rape, the attempted rape with the comedian. And then you have where she first met Dr. Manhattan. Where they had the meeting, they were going to try to put together the crime fighters, and nothing happened.
Mm-hmm.
That's all in the second issue,
right? And that's I don't know if anybody read the like extra stuff, but that's one of the things is that basically in the 40s, just kind of like in the real world when Golden Age superheroes all shut down, they kind of stopped doing it, and there weren't any superheroes really until the 60s. They try to restart it. You've got Rorschach and Night Owl working together. You've got a few other sort of isolated heroes. And then you just have Dr. Manhattan, who is kind of property of the United States government.
He lets them believe he's their property.
Yes.
He's also the only real superhero in this, too.
Yeah.
I mean, well, he's not really a superhero, but he's the only one with power, really.
Right. And this is, again, because Alan Moore wants it to be like, what if this was just the real world? Where it's like you don't have a murder clown that shows up every week to fight you. It's like, no, you basically just beat up like enough drug dealers, and then you're like, well, I guess I'm done.
I'm done for a day.
Well, I mean, that's what it would be if we had vigilantes like that. I mean, you'd just be beating up gangsters and drug dealers. You wouldn't have any. There's not, there's no supervillains. Right.
There's not, because it's the real world. There's no marketing reason for the Joker to exist. None of them really have like I'm your arch enemy kind of character. Although, I mean, Moloch is a little bit of an arch enemy, but like not really.
I mean, wasn't he just some guy that just kept committing crimes?
Yeah, he was basically just like a crime boss. He's like one of the Silver Age Spider-Man villains that's like working for the Kingpin or whatever.
Now, to be fair, we're talking about this, but if I was like a guy and I was like, man, there's sure a lot of superheroes around. I think maybe I could try being a supervillain, and I turn the corner and Rorschach's like curb stomping some guy into the road. I'd probably be, and he gets away with it like no one cares. I'd probably be like, no, that's not a good idea. I like having my fucking teeth.
Yeah, I mean, that's the joke in the end of the first issue, right? Where they talk about like meeting a guy who basically is just a masochist who's just like, beat me up, please.
Oh yeah, Captain Carnage or whatever.
Why does it came my brain was candy bar. That's what popped in my brain just now. And
then Rorschach threw him down an elevator shaft.
Look,
you
not
want
for
pain,
nothing.
I'll give you pain.
That might be the funniest thing in this damn book. Like, every time I read it, I laugh. When I was watching it in the movie today, I laugh. Like, it's just funny.
Yeah, this is a very dark book. There's some really funny bits. Like, we mentioned the lock thing. The fact that every scene we're introduced to Dan, there's a different locksmith installing a new lock on his door is a funny bit.
Yeah, because there's not a whole lot of. I mean, you need some funny stuff because like everything is so dark. I mean, you have everything with like the comedian. Like in the second issue, when you have them talking about like some riots that happened, like it was like what the 70s or something. There was a riot that they were part of.
Yeah, a riot from police. Like police were striking because they were like, "We're not going to do our jobs. You don't need us to. You have these vigilantes."
Okay, and that's kind of when like is this supposed to be like the Vietnam era then too? I think.
Yes.
Is that after they win Vietnam?
Yeah, after they win Vietnam, and then you have the comedian gets his face all fucked up because he's an asshole.
Yeah.
Because he shoots a pregnant woman with his kid.
Oh man,
comedian's such a piece of shit.
Yeah, I like it too because he is mad at Dr. Manhattan. Like, you could have stopped this, and it's like, yeah, you also could have stopped this dude by not being such a piece of shit.
By not pulling the trigger, like it's not that hard.
Yeah,
right?
But at the same time, the comedian isn't wrong. And this is where I'm going to start hating myself a lot during this podcast because I'm going to say that a lot. And I'm uncomfortable with it. But, like, the comedian, was he wrong for doing that? Yes, absolutely. I do not advocate for shooting women that are pregnant with your children in a third world country. Not cool.
But
Dr. Manhattan could have stopped him. Should have. If he was so concerned about her life, why didn't he do anything?
Because he doesn't care.
Right. Yeah. And that is the first time that it's ever brought up that, you pretend to care. That's not caring. Caring is doing, not pretending.
He doesn't care about anything. I mean, he stops the Vietnam War, but I'm assuming it's more of he's probably close to when he first became Dr. Manhattan, and he's still kind of warped in the idea of following what the United States wants, where later on he just doesn't give a shit anymore.
Right.
It is rather nice that he did wear a nice little leotard thing during the Vietnam War, though, so he didn't have blue dong hanging.
Yeah, it was nice that he actually had clothes on for a change.
That was nice of him. But yeah, I mean, he's later it's more explicit, but he is sort of beyond humans to the point where, it's like, yeah, if you feed a mouse to your cat, the cat's happy, but the mouse is upset, and he's just like he kind of sees both of these as like, yeah, these are not people to me. Like these are not my equals. Whatever they do, if I interfere, it changes things because I'm like so far beyond everything.
Oh, and this is also has one it's in the second issue has the famous picture of who watches the Watchmen kind of thing being that they spray paint.
Oh, that damn thing that keeps coming up throughout the entire damn book. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, and the other reason why I want to mention this because I just got done watching the Star Trek episode of Next Generation, Who Watches the Watchers. So, which came out after this book. So I was curious what came first.
Yeah, and chapter 2 it continues like this is set up like as a mystery until around like chapter 6 or 7 when it just sort of gives up on being a mystery. But when he meets Moloch, the kind of crappy villain we mentioned earlier. It is set up like a mystery where he's like, oh, another superhero coming to me? Like, what's going on? And he's like, what do you mean? And so he finds out that the comedian, like a week before his death, went to Moloch and was like a mess. And he thought he was going to kill him or himself. And, a week later, he's murdered. So of course, Rorschach is like,
Okay, and that's what leads into, like, because that doesn't get answered till way late in this book when you finally find out what the comedian found out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That led to who killed him, and yeah, okay. I remember bits and pieces of it, but not a whole lot.
And what I really like about this book, like you see it during the Moloch story, but this does a lot of like match cuts, essentially. I mean, they're not match cuts, but match panels. Like where the comedian is like holding Moloch by the shirt and like somebody explained it to me. And then the next panel is the exact same thing, but it's Rorschach. And that happens a lot throughout this book. So I personally think that the way they have that structured a lot of this sometimes is just to show, hey, yeah, they're different people, but are they different? Are they? No.
I think probably one of my top favorite lines from this book is probably in the second chapter where you have Rorschach talking to Moloch and he leaves and he's like walking down the street and he's like, a prostitute offered me Swedish and French love, but not American love. God, how I want some American love and a Coke in a glass bottle. And I'm just reading it. And I'm like, shut the fuck up.
And then you went out and buy a burger after reading this?
No, it was like, it was towards the ending because I finished it. I got about halfway throughout the week and I decided I need to sit down and read it today. So I combed through the rest of it today. I think it's somewhere in the ending where he's like, oh, I could go for a big American hamburger. And I'm like, oh, me too. I'm going to get something to eat.
Yeah.
Hey, it worked. The product advertisement from 30 years ago got you to buy a burger.
This chapter 2 is the one where we see the like sort of highlights of the comedian's life set to Rorschach retelling the Pagliacci joke that has kind of made the rounds on Twitter and everywhere else the past decade.
I got a big problem with this joke.
What's the joke?
So the joke is, man goes to doctor, says he's depressed, says life seems harsh and cruel, says he feels all alone in a threatening world where what lies ahead is vague and uncertain. Doctor says treatment is simple. Great clown Pagliacci is in town tonight. Go and see him. That should pick you up. Man bursts into tears, says, but doctor, I am Pagliacci. So my issue with this joke, and afterwards it does say, good joke, everybody laugh, roll on snare drum, curtains. Pagliacci is the musical, Grimaldi is the character. And this has led to a critical misunderstanding. Pagliacci is literally the Italian word for clown.
Oh, okay.
So
I have heard that joke, but I did not hear where he was called Pagliacci. I heard something else. And okay, now that makes more sense.
yeah, you can literally substitute any funny thing in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and that brings us to chapter 3, which is where they start the comic that I didn't like, the comic within the comic. Where there's this kid throughout the book for a good chunk reading a comic, and then that's always in a different text box, and I don't like it. Like, I stopped reading it. I didn't read the Black Sails thing.
Okay.
I didn't get it either. I didn't understand what the point of it was, so I just kind of...
I've read it before 3 years ago, and I'm like, I just don't want to. I'm just done, and I just stopped.
I mean, it's not like you have to. You don't have to eat your vegetables. I mean, it's a comic book.
Yeah.
I know. It's a thing with me where I try to read all panels and everything in a comic book,
But
this also has a lot of words. I like my comic book to have more pictures.
Man.
I want a page of this Batman punching. Like, oh, cool. And then I flip the page and I'm on, there's some text boxes.
So
Yeah.
I don't read normal books, and when I don't, my husband says it's because I have ADHD. Maybe it's the same thing for you, Mike. Maybe you have ADHD.
Yeah, I don't read too many regular books either. Only when I travel.
Yeah.
But no, there's a good scene in here that I really want to talk about. So you have that comic thing, and then you have the part with, which this part cracks me up. I don't know if it's supposed to, but it cracks me up personally, where Dr. Manhattan is having sex with, what the hell is her name?
Laurie.
Jupiter.
And all of a sudden there's two of them. And she's like, what the fuck? There's like 3 hands touching her. She gets out of, she opens her eyes and there's 2 of them. And then she finds out he's still working while trying to have sex with her, with other bodies.
I don't get why she's so mad. Like, she's like, you were in here working while you made a clone of yourself to have sex with me. And it's like, yeah, he's busy. Goddamn. Why are you mad?
Well, it's because he is not giving her like his undivided attention like ever.
Yeah.
He's got busy stuff doing. He's working. He's working here.
Oh, I also didn't catch that when she leaves him, the taxi cab driver that she gets in the car with, the same one that's later on beating up her girlfriend.
Yep.
Yes, the lesbian.
Okay, I did not catch that before.
Yeah, that's one thing, and because this character is a lesbian, there is also a gay couple in the restaurant where Laurie and what's his name, Night Owl, are having lunch.
Yeah.
Two men holding hands. So like this book is for the mid 80s. It's trying to show like a world where it's not just everyone is a straight heterosexual person. Even the people who are pretty, I guess, they're into role playing.
And yet Silhouette from the original 50s Minutemen gets murked because she's a lesbian.
Yes, that's in the Under the Hood, like chapter 2 or 3. They're like, yeah, we regret kicking her out, and then she is basically murdered as a political act, as a hate crime.
Oh,
Sorry.
Oh, let me guess, you didn't read those either, did you, Mike?
no, I didn't read those.
I didn't either. I'm sorry.
I read this book 3 times. All 3 times. Oh, that's nice. I had to skip them.
One of the two of them, because there's the Hooded Justice guy. He is in a relationship with another guy, and one of them is like a Polish or Austrian immigrant who there's like a whole part where they're like, yeah, they wanted us to stay neutral in World War II, and you're like, gee, I wonder why.
Oh,
Yeah, like Sally Jupiter is Polish immigrant. Her grandmother or mom
Right.
was.
Right.
And Silhouette asks her, oh, well, what do you think about going over there? And Sally's like, why the hell should I know? Like, there's some very interesting racial things going on here. But
As you kind of find out in the second issue, Lori visits her mom, the original Silk Spectre, and she kind of became a superhero as a publicity stunt, it seems like.
mhm.
yeah. Like we need a sexy woman on the team kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she actually started the team. Her manager was the one who was like, hey, let's get a group together. And she put out a call for like other costumes to join.
Oh, well, that's cool.
So like it was by her intervention that the Minutemen actually happened. Well, her managers, who she would later go on to marry.
Right.
So I had like a weird sense of whiplash at, like during like I think it's the 3rd chapter of the book. And
Just there.
yeah, no, because I guess I wasn't like I was kind of half paying attention because I was trying to read this part at work. And like so you're introduced, you have Lori walk off, and while she's walking off, they're interviewing a woman about her relationship with Dr. Manhattan, and I'm like, wait, is that supposed to be Lori in the future? Now she has cancer? I don't know why I would think that, but like I said, I wasn't really paying attention.
Oh, that was Dr. Manhattan's ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the girlfriend who he's with in the 60s when comedian is like, you guys are idiots, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Good
So
old
that also
Jenny's
kind of comes into play in this issue where he goes to the TV network and you have them saying, oh, you gave this guy cancer and this person has cancer and are you radioactive? And he freaks out and teleports them outside.
And again, it's like if he was, I guess, really thinking, if you see him put back together like the beaker that Sally destroys. He's basically has the power to eradicate whatever he can control matter. Like, why couldn't he go to his ex's sick bed and be like, I just cured your cancer. You're welcome. Like, what's stopping him from trying? He never even thinks of doing it.
Well, I mean, sorry.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead, Ken.
I was just going to say, he gets this sprung on him, literally. And he has a temper tantrum. And a lot happens in between then and now. Like, he finds out that he might be radioactive. He is concerned about everybody's safety around him. So after his interview, he just fucks off to Mars.
Yeah. And then this is when it kind of talks about his whole origin, too, I think, in this chapter. Also, or is that later?
No, that's his chapter.
It's the next chapter. I think this is the best chapter in the book.
This is also when you have I did laugh at the part where Night Owl and Lori are fighting. They fight the random gang that tries to rob them. And then right after they get done, she has to have a smoke. And it just reminded me because anyone who, it made me think of like anyone who smokes when you have sex, you have to smoke afterwards. And that's what made me think of.
You don't have to.
Every woman I've been with that smoked, after we had sex, they went and smoked. So that's all my brain went to.
Well, that is what it's supposed to be implying. It's supposed to imply that they had a good time doing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what my brain went to because she smoked. I'm
Breathing
like, okay.
heavily and looking at each other, and then it's awkward.
Yeah.
So it's totally sex.
Yeah.
When he goes to Mars, I think that's also interesting too. Like, I think it shows when he goes to the plant. And they don't tell you the story, but it shows him picking up this random picture. I think is this when he starts talking all weird yet, or is that later?
No, that's the beginning of chapter 4 when he starts really talking weird.
Okay, and then when he leaves, that's when they start talking about the nuclear thing of what could happen. Where they draw Nixon, you can see his giant nose, which made me laugh.
And the jowls. Don't forget the jowls.
Nixon did one good thing. He opened up America to China. The only good thing he did is help that happened during his presidency. I don't think he did anything else good.
Create the EPA.
Oh, okay. That was good. Never mind then.
And then we're introduced to because Dr. Manhattan leaves Earth, Russia invades Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Boy, that's never happened before.
Yeah, that would never happen.
That happened in the 80s. Was that the 80s when that happened in real life? Okay, so this would have been around the same.
That's when Rambo First Blood is dedicated to the Mujahideen.
Yeah,
That's
that's
gonna
still in the credits, I wonder? Any
It's going to
current?
age perfectly because they're fighting in Russia. They're good.
I love it when things age like fine milk. Mwah.
Yeah, because a lot of shit that happens later on can be traced back to that. So,
Well, here's my question. Having played Metal Gear Solid 5, does Solid Snake exist in the Watchmen world? Because I think him and the comedian would get along just fine.
No.
maybe Big Boss. If you're thinking Metal Gear Solid 5, that'd be Big Boss.
Yes.
Or
Big
would it be
Boss is
Torture
not a good
Snake?
guy.
Like, I don't. No, we're not going down this Metal Gear. We're not.
Okay, chapter 4 is the one that opens up. Yeah, I see, where he's talking about how he became Dr. Manhattan and he wanted to make watches, and then he talked about he met that girl and then he gets locked in a freaking nuclear thing. Like, is it an atomic testing thing he gets locked in by accident?
Yeah.
Yes. And this is like, this is, again, he's supposed to be Captain Atom, but this is Alan Moore being like, this is the Silver Age. This is the Flash being a science-based character. This is Spider-Man being bitten by a radioactive spider and Fantastic Four cosmic rays. Like, science is causing him to get powers instead of just being like guys in tights like the 40s was.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't catch that. That makes perfect sense. Okay, that explains it. I mean, it's an interesting way that they show him, like, how how he's slowly becoming more and more there as he's learning to control himself.
Okay, I love that sequence so damn much. Like,
where like his brain just shows up.
yeah.
He's walking around.
Like, every November 10th, I post the circulatory system walking through the kitchen on Facebook. Like, you should. And we got to talk about the art here. Like, when John Osterman is blown to bits into atomic particles, good fucking luck finding anything creepier and more haunting than that picture.
I think the one where he gets blown to bits later is pretty creepy as well.
With the cat thing.
Yeah.
This one's just so bad because his eye is just staring.
Oh, yep. I did not catch
left.
that.
Yeah.
That is pretty damn creepy.
Oh yeah.
And that just, it makes you feel like, oh shit, he knows what's happening to him.
Yeah, it's so cool, and yeah, I love the scene of his like return where all the characters are, their hair is standing on end because there's just basically like this electrical charge of whatever it is, and then he just appears like Jesus with his dick hanging out, and he's like, here he is, he's back.
Yeah,
He's all muscles.
Yeah, was he that ripped before he went in?
No.
Doesn't
He's
seem
like
but I mean,
that
you could
way.
reform yourself. I mean, that's what you would probably do.
I don't know, man. I'm pretty happy with my body now.
So, I mean, that's the idea. I think would be that you would form yourself to be a muscular being. Or maybe that's what Alan Moore thought he would do if he had that ability. I don't know. I've seen a picture of the guy, so I'm going to say no.
Look,
Because
since Alan Moore is like fuck up wizard, he can do whatever the hell he wants to. I'm not going to say a cross word about him.
Well, he doesn't look like a buff guy, that's all. The picture I have from 2008 where he looks like he's got a huge beard.
Yeah, I mean he's going all in on looking like that. Yeah, I love that he's basically he's like, I went and fought like gangs and stuff, but it wasn't even like fair because I am just exploding people's heads.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when you see him blow up a tank and stuff, and he fights. Oh, because he fights the Russians, and that's when they stand back because he can just murder.
I will say, and I don't know if you were defending. Well, you weren't really defending the comedian, but I'm canceling Dr. Manhattan. He meets Laurie, and I don't know if you've done the math on how old Laurie is. When he's like, in the future, we're going to be a couple. We're going to start dating, right? And you're like, wait, how old are you? Is she now? Because the answer is not 18.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's like 16 or 17 here.
They meet at 14. He meets her at 14, and I believe whenever she's doing an interview where she talks about how she's developed lung cancer, she also talks about how like he ran off with like a 16-year-old girl in her underwear, which is supposed to be Yeah.
So he sees her and then sees his future of like, oh, I'm going to be in a relationship with her in 1985. But it's like, that's 20 years from now, man.
But like, he knows, and that's what bugs me so much about Manhattan. Like, I don't mean bugs me like, oh, I hate this character. I feel bad for him because like, what's the point?
I wouldn't want to know the future.
Like, this effectively implies that free will is not a thing.
Nothing is true. Everything is permitted.
And
Fuck it, we're not there yet, Mike.
a lot of his backstory and a lot of stuff that is to come, and we were talking about earlier, is the reason why he does a lot of stuff that he does is because he can see in the future. Well, yeah, he gets with Lori when she's like 16 because he sees that they're still together in 20 years. So he's like, well, yeah, if I get her at 16, it's still the same thing. So it's whatever. He, whenever the comedian shoots that woman, he sees himself not doing anything and everything's still fine afterwards. So he's like, fuck it, I'm not going to do anything. And that kind of is like, you have to remember that's a driving force to like most of this book is it's like, well, why does he do what he does? Well, because he's seen that's how it works out and everything works out in the end. So he just doesn't give a shit.
That's fair. I mean,
Fuck.
I don't like, well, I mean, again, you're not supposed to, but I really don't like Dr. Manhattan. I don't like that stuff with him and Lori. Like, yeah, why he, she's
it's
16.
fucking weird.
I mean, even if you see the future or not, just wait. Like, come on.
Oh,
Like, we'll be together in 20 years. Okay, I'll just wait. Like,
It was a different time.
yeah, the 80s were different.
the 40s?
60s.
The
Is it
60s.
60s? Okay, it might have been okay.
60s, yeah, it's the 60s, yeah.
Yeah, 66. Okay.
60s was a different time.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree with that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. And then we have the other really weird part of his backstory where he's like, I saw the future, and the future is electric cars, but we need more. What is it? Like something. They need more something to make electric cars. And he's like, I don't want to wait for electric cars. So he just makes it. And he goes, there you go.
Lithium?
Yes, lithium. There we go. Thank you. Yeah. He sees the future where they have electric cars. And he's like, hey, you guys should start working on electric cars, but we need more lithium. And he just makes a bunch of it. And he goes, there you go. Have a good day.
Yeah. And that's crazy because that is also what electric cars now need, but we don't have a Dr. Manhattan. And
No.
God, the book is prescient. It's a prescient book. Like it feels like it knew what was coming.
Okay, and then this chapter ends with him making his castle on Mars.
Did you notice there's a like green, star, blinking as he's on Mars? That's Earth.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah,
I
because
didn't
you see, he looks up at the red star before he like teleports there. He's in the desert of where he started, and then looks up to Mars. And then the next issue, he's looking at space, and he sees Earth as a green dot.
Oh, okay. I did not catch that. That's cool.
And sorry. Go.
I was gonna say, yeah, we have also where they talk about the heroes revealing their secret identities, no longer being heroes, and probably a other funny moment of the book of them finding where they say like 10 child molesters with their necks broken with like letters that say never, and they're like, oh, that's Rorschach. So, I guess he's not doing it. Okay.
It is hard to root against Rorschach in that moment. You're like, okay. When he's like, you don't have a permit for that handgun. You're like, calm down, Rorschach. Being a vigilante is illegal.
Yeah, because it's this is the same part when he breaks in the next chapter when he breaks into Moloch's apartment again.
Yes.
And that's where he makes that comment. Well, you don't have a handgun. It's not legal. Like, yeah, you murdered people. Like, you're not exactly you're not a law-abiding citizen here, buddy.
I really, really like the way this chapter ends with the quote from Einstein.
Oh yeah,
The release of atom power has changed everything except our way of thinking. The solution to this problem lies in the heart of mankind. If only I had known, I should have become a watchmaker, which is exactly what Manhattan starts out as. I thought that was nice.
yeah. And this is a world where instead of mutually assured destruction, it's basically the U.S. has the atom bomb, and no one else can have one because he's it.
Yeah. Like, you can have atom bombs, but we have the capital A atom bomb.
Yeah, we don't need a Star Wars defense. We just have Dr. Manhattan be like, no.
We got
I'll just make all your missiles fall down.
we got this blue guy and his dick's hanging out.
Yeah.
He's hardcore.
Your move, Russia. We have Blue Dawn.
I need to cut that out and make it a little thing. Okay. Out of context. As a note to self, Mike, when you edit this, do that. All right. I'm looking through chapter 4 to see anything else that what's worth mentioning. Oh, this is when you have Ozymandias. What the fuck his name is? Ozymandias?
Ozymandias.
You have Oz, where he almost gets assassinated, but has his secretary get killed instead.
Yeah.
and then murders the guy.
Yeah. Well, he says he's like, no, he's got a cyanide pill.
Yeah, but that's him shoving it in his mouth, right?
Yeah, we find out later he shoved that in the guy's mouth.
Oh, I never thought about that. Okay.
Oh, it's so funny.
Yeah, again, the scenes like that are like the scenes that Zack Snyder makes, like 20-minute long scenes of like fighting this guy. He also makes it, they have like spooky music play the first time Ozymandias shows up in the movie.
Yeah, so
you're like, who could it be?
No, now.
So I'm going to reference it later. I think I had a much better time reading the comic now that I've never seen the movie. But there are like two scenes in this book where I'm like, there's two scenes in the movie where I'm like, oh, they did it better in the movie than they did in the book.
Which one?
Okay.
Have we gotten to them yet?
No, I can say them real quick, and they both involve Rorschach. I don't want to forget about it. There in the movie, it has Rorschach screaming at the prisoners where he's like, "You're not locked in. I'm not locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me." That's pretty cool in the movie. I'll give him that. And then the other one, because I think it's not really colored right personally, is whenever Rorschach goes to the bathroom to kill that guy, you can't really tell it's blood mixed with water. In the movie, you can tell.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
And
don't
that's
really put it on there.
And like, look,
Again,
big
that's a funny
props.
scene because Dan is like, oh, well, I guess he has to go. That's why I put a special pouch so I could piss faster.
Like, there's a lot of humor in here. And some of the biggest stuff is stuff that we haven't even touched on. Like the Indian food place being called the Gunga Diner. Come on, get the fuck out of here. That's hilarious. That's a fucking Kipling deep cut, man. I love it.
Yeah, Alan Moore. If you ever read his other stuff, Top 10, Promethea, all that stuff, he loves putting little jokes like that in like every store name, every book that a character is reading. He puts little jokes like that in there.
Yeah,
League of
like,
Extraordinary Gentlemen, of course.
He is, I think, probably one of the most well-read creators that creates things. Like, he is so well-versed in so many different things, which is how his stories end up so incredibly layered and are way funnier than they should be.
Okay, this is also the issue where Rorschach then gets framed for murder, where he goes to Moloch's apartment again, but Moloch's been killed, and then the cops show up, and okay, that's when he kills a few cops, but they still arrest him.
Okay, so real quick, before we go past this,
shit out of him.
I don't want to keep missing this. The lock company that Dan gets his locks from, that Moloch gets his locks from, it's called the Gordian Knot Lock Company.
Oh, that's
And
funny.
how does Rorschach always get in? He doesn't pick the lock.
He just breaks it.
He just cuts the damn door in half, essentially, by kicking it in. And, like, that, again, little shit, just hilarious.
So
I will say that's almost being too cutesy, considering Ozymandias later is like, I love Alexander the Great and the Gordian Knot, blah blah blah, and you're like, okay, we get it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to skip over because again, one of my favorite subplots of Watchmen is because I was mentioning how even the straight characters are into role playing. Is that Dan has Lori come over. And she's like starting to change. And it is because again, the art goes out of its way to it's not cheesecakey for the most part, but Lori starts like taking her shirt off and changing. And Dan, like right in front of Dan. And she's like, oh, you're like a big brother to me. And the look on his face. Yeah. And then he just like sadly goes to sleep and is just like, damn it. It's such a good scene because it's like you can tell from the first issue that like they have some chemistry. Dan really likes her, but she doesn't really see him that way because he is this kind of like harmless, kind of nice guy that she's not particularly attracted to until he gets in a fight and wants to be a superhero again.
We'll get more about that later too, because
which that scene in the Snyder movie is, oh my god, where they play like Hallelujah over it, so stupid.
So
I feel like I should watch this movie once and for all for this.
We should do it for the podcast.
That's the only way I'm going to watch it.
Yeah, if you don't like the comic because it's too dark, the movie forgets all the humor we've been talking about, and it's just like, man, this stuff is dark, huh?
I only like one thing Zack Snyder has produced that I've seen, and that's the 4-hour cut of Justice League. That's it.
The next chapter, chapter 6, again, Snyder does a pretty good adaptation of this scene because it's just like, this is just fucked up, isn't it?
Oh yeah, this is when you get Rorschach's backstory.
Yeah.
We get his backstory, but I want to backpedal a little bit for the backstory, which was also, I'm not saying he's my favorite character, but it's like a really funny note that I like, is the police tackle Rorschach, and in the midst of the fight, I don't think you see it, but you hear people, the police talking about it, where it's like, hey, did you see he shot a cop in the chest with a grappling hook and just knocked him the fuck out? What an asshole. But they're tackling him and they're like ripping off his mask, and he's essentially like a 5'5" redheaded guy. Because I think they said whenever they're like ripping his costume off, they're like, he's got elevator shoes, so he's really short.
Yeah, that's messed up. Like,
it's pretty bad.
Yeah, well, and you realize he's the guy that was buying a copy of whatever magazine from the right-wing person saying like, the world's ending tomorrow. And they're like, yeah, okay, buddy. So his like day job is basically just carrying a sign saying the end is nigh.
But no one pays attention to you, so it's a good idea.
Yep, it's good work if you can get it.
Yeah, you do. I mean, it does make sense, again, to recontextualize what we saw in the first page of the first issue. He is spying on the cops doing their investigation. That's why Rorschach is investigating the apartment building later. Is he's like, he knows what happened. It's not, He didn't happen by. He's just doing I'm a crazy guy.
Yeah. I do not like him at all. But I'm not supposed to, so that's a good thing. Yeah, his backstory interesting. Like, they kind of show the idea of the whole thing of why he was abused by his mother, and like, saying that's why he became the way he was, and it's just. I mean, I guess most serial killers and stuff do have like some. I mean, not all. I mean, some have the trauma. Sometimes just some people are they just flip. I guess is the way to put it, and that's kind of what it is with this character. I feel. I mean, yes, he had trauma in his childhood, but he just freaking flipped.
You also have the weird B plot of like his psychiatrist becoming obsessed with him.
Oh, I love this. I
do so like much. That.
Yeah, and again, I love the art. Like this guy, he's so perfectly cast as this sort of like middle class, kind of slightly doughy, in his late 40s, early 50s, daughter in college type guy. And Rorschach, when he's just like, I don't like you. And he's like, I like you. And he's just like, you're soft.
It just shows him the kid where he like was about to bite a kid's face off, even though it's like they kind of like they were fucking with him. So then they got fucked with. But I don't know. To go earlier, that line is kind of cool, where it's like, "Oh, you're locked in here with me," but
it's really effective in the movie.
Okay,
yeah.
But what I want to talk about with the psychiatrist is, as Rorschach tells his story, by the end of chapter 6, you have the psychiatrist journaling like Rorschach talks, clipped sentences, looking down on everything, like. This man looked into the abyss, and it is gazing back at him. Mm-hmm. And to prove it, they even put that Nietzsche quote at the end of the chapter. Like, it's really cool how much Rorschach affects this psychiatrist, who has probably dealt with people like him before.
I mean, he works in a prison, so there's, he's gonna have dealt with other, serial killers that would have come in and things like that. Except this is a more famous type character. Also, and Rorschach isn't a serial killer; he's a vigilante, and he's doing it for good reasons in quotations that no one can see. So, like, I mean, I guess that's kind of the idea too.
If I can say one thing I do like about Rorschach, which isn't a lot, I do like his backstory of him like working at a factory, and I think that's actually how people make the real mask now, where there's like some kind of heat sensitive dress. And I guess only one woman wore it or something, but the woman who wore it got like raped and tortured and killed, and he wears that as his mask.
Yeah, let's talk about that real quick, because the Italian woman, or the woman with the Italian name, that bought this dress and never got it, that he uses for his mask, was named Kitty Genovese, which is also the same impetus that the Boondock Saints use to become vigilantes, much like Rorschach. I didn't even put this together today until today, that like Rorschach's journey is essentially similar to the Boondock Saints. And it's Gross.
Right. Well, and they're both based on the somewhat exaggerated story of a woman who was in real life. I mean, Katie Genovese was really murdered in 1964, and there was the New York Times said that there were 38 witnesses who saw or heard the murder happen. And that's the story, is that no one did anything, that she was murdered. The New York Times later clarified that it's not like 38 people were sitting there looking out the window.
What? The New York Times lies? No.
Yeah, I was watching a video before this that kind of explained some of that. Like, yeah, it's based on a real life event, kind of. But also, like, when he's in the prison, like, when he throws the hot fat on the guy, like, you think in a prison they wouldn't let you just grab, oil.
Well, I bet they don't anymore. Thanks, Rorschach.
I used to work in a prison, and I worked for the food service department, and the inmates cook their food. And I can very much say, yeah, if a guy just walked up and grabbed a tray of hot food, it would happen. So, no, that actually would happen.
You think it'd be more secured?
Yeah, because, I mean, the thing, and Rorschach is very much so, he's based on the question we kind of mentioned earlier, and it's a lot of, and again, I think Moore is kind of making fun of it, but he's doing it in a way that he sort of inadvertently makes him cool to teenagers. He's a moral absolutist. He is, and not to go on too long about philosophy.
I want to bring up, like, the other thing that happens in this chapter is this where you have Rorschach finally, like, admits to, or like, he admits that when he's seeing those images, he's lying to what he actually sees, and he talks about the first murder he did that really kind of flipped him, about this guy who just killed a girl. That was interesting. Like, when he finally, like, when you see him finally, like, break down and be like, okay, this is what happened, this is what I saw, this is what made me flip. Except, I think he was already flipped.
I'm not saying the guy deserved it, but he kind of deserved it.
Yeah, I mean, he deserved it.
Because I think, what is it, that they kidnapped a girl thinking she was like the daughter of a millionaire, but it was just, she's the daughter to some guy. And I guess when they didn't get the money, they fed her to a bunch of dogs.
Yeah.
Well, they killed her, but to get rid of the body, they fed the body to the dog.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, again, you do have to get rid of a body, so.
Yeah, but everybody knows pigs. Pigs are the way to do it. Come on.
Oh,
That's what Hannibal taught me.
Yeah, don't remind me about that. Pigs are fucking weird like that.
Yeah, they'll go through anything.
All right, so you were saying about philosophy.
Yeah, okay. So let me take it back. Not to go on too long about philosophy, but Rorschach is like a pure Kantian actor in that he basically is like, look, you have to have sort of rules to live by, and you never break those rules, whatever they are. If the rule is don't lie, never lie. If your wife says, does this make me look fat? You say, yes, it does. Like he is a complete moral absolutist. And in the context of the book, you're like, oh, he seems cool. But it's also like it puts him in this situation where he kind of has to do what he does.
Yeah. Look, I hate Kant. I hate Kant so damn much. Like, I hate him. Nobody else liked him either. His friend, he didn't have any friends. Nobody wanted to invite him to parties. Like, he's just the worst. But, like, I think we can all agree, if you know anything about utilitarianism, that Ozymandias did the calculus there. Like, he's done his utilitarian calculus. He knows what's up. I don't think he's wrong.
Right. Well, and that's the sort of freshman, theme of, you've got the pure, like, Kant, Rorschach, and then the pure utilitarian Ozymandias, and then everyone else is kind of somewhere in between the two of them.
Yeah. And, like, looking back, that's basically what my paper was on. Just, like, kind of philosophically breaking down, putting everybody into little boxes. And that's when I looked back at that paper today, and I was like, God damn, I was an idiot.
Well, I mean, it's credit to all the professors out there who decide to read, like, the papers that 19-year-olds write that they think are very smart.
Yeah, well, here's the problem. I was 35, so.
Mine, it was a freshman seminar for me. I'm sure my paper was not anything where I was just like, superheroes are like the modern mythology or something that, clever and no one's ever thought of before.
It's true, though. It is true.
In a sense. There's not a whole lot of religious worship going on at the Cineplex, but yeah, anyway.
You never know.
One could argue that Marvel does make almost a religious type devotion for their cinematic universe.
You could argue that. But yeah, we see Rorschach says that basically he was just a regular superhero. He's like, I wasn't really Rorschach then. and you learn what made him what he is, and it's pretty dark.
Yeah, it is. We talked about it a little bit after your cat decided you weren't going to talk with us anymore.
But it's damn good though. Like this is, if anything could cause somebody to have a complete and total separation with reality, this would probably be it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I get it, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, something like that has to affect a person, you'd think. Like, to see someone just murdered, and senselessly. Like, I feel like as humans, we can justify if a crime is done for greed or if a crime is done for, revenge. But this is a crime that's done for really no reason. You start off as greed, but you didn't need to murder her for greed. I mean, as long as you kept your face covered, like, just, return her. Like, you fucked up. But in the same way, the human is like, well, you're nothing. So I'll just murder you.
Right. Well, and again, like more as far as like what would, superheroes really be like? It's like Spider-Man would be deeply traumatized by the life he leads, and not just his constant concussion headaches. He has like had so many horrible things happen to him that he would be sort of mentally broken if he wasn't a comic book hero who has to have another adventure next month.
Oh, you mean like current comics now where he's basically friend zoned MJ for some weird reason? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, where every month a new adventure. We can't really change it because this is the status quo of Spider-Man from 1975 or whatever it was to now. It has to be the same.
Like, you want to impress me, you start actually killing off some of these characters, or like have them suffer lasting trauma. Like no reboots, none of that bullshit. Just make them the fucked up character that they absolutely would be.
So what you're saying is you want Batman to die and Damian Wayne to be Batman from now on?
Damian Wayne can fuck right off, you know that.
we can get Dick Grayson in there.
No, it's got to be Damian Wayne for Ken. So
Dick Grayson can be Batman, that's fine.
Are you sure, Ken? You want the 80s run of Spider-Man where it turns out he killed Mary Jane with his radioactive semen? Because, everything in the 80s was great.
That wasn't from the 80s.
No, it wasn't. That was like the 90s?
It was the 2000s, I think.
Was it?
Yeah, I think that was... Yeah.
It seemed something silly, so I thought it was like in the edgiest time.
No, it's isn't it like a what if type thing situation or something?
It is a miniseries, but I think it's either late 90s or early 2000s.
I've never read it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's definitely, Kraven's Last Hunt is 80s Spider-Man, and that's good.
Yeah, that's real good.
Yeah, that is pretty good, yeah.
I never read it still.
Good.
I want to. Okay. And then the last thing to Chapter 7 that I want to mention is you have the doctor or the psychiatrist sitting in his room looking at the ink blot pictures, and he's kind of like seeing, like, looking at his own, like, horror and stuff in his life and how he's unhappy, I guess. The way to put it.
Yeah, you have the weird part where he won't sleep with his wife for some reason, just because he's weird. I don't know.
Because he's talking to a psychopath, and I guess.
Yeah, something like that.
You. Like, it bothers you. Your work can absolutely interfere with your life like this.
Oh, God, yes.
And if you can't disconnect, like these are the things that will eventually happen to you.
Yeah. And then you'll be divorced, too. So.
Yep.
Well, you can't let you haven't a lot. I've had some jobs. I've never had like a depressant. I never worked in a sane asylum or a police, or a penitentiary or anything like that. But I've had times where my work life has eroded too much into my home life, especially 2020, where just everything was going on. I was a mess. I recorded a lot of podcasts in 2020. So, you do that, but no, it definitely can. Like I try to have a very big work-life balance in my life, and I also balance out this part of my second job that doesn't pay me in my life too. But this brings to Chapter 8, and this is when you have Lori being stupid and showing how smoking kills you, and she almost tries to find a freaking cigarette lighter in a giant airship and almost lights the place on fire because she presses the wrong button.
Hey, look, I will have no bad talk about smoking. All right.
Yes, I know you're a smoker.
Yes,
partly why I'm making these comments.
And it's cool.
But have you set your garage on fire?
No, I haven't, because I'm not an idiot, and I don't have an owl with a flamethrower in my garage.
I bet you wish you did, though.
Well, shit, who doesn't?
I wish I had an airship. I can tell you that. I hate heights, but an airship would be damn cool.
I wish I had a flamethrower. I could light everybody's cigarette.
Come on, here you go. This is when she finds a picture from his Night Owl's previous love, which is a dominatrix-looking picture.
Yeah, his Catwoman.
wasn't even a previous love. Like, it was just somebody who,
that you liked?
like, he arrested.
Oh,
And you had a
okay,
crush
never
on
mind.
him. Yeah.
I thought it was like I thought it was like an ex-girlfriend or something too.
No, I just didn't throw it away because that's,
No, I get
it's
it.
kind of cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's kind of his Catwoman, where it's like, if only she would turn good, but then I wouldn't be as attracted to her.
It's a little less of that and more of he's got like a certain kind of kink, as we realize a little
Yes.
further in,
Mm.
where him and Lori do hot make out with pants on, and for some reason he just can't. His owl orang will just not perform the way he wants it to. So they kind of go to sleep, and then he has a dream where he's like, "Oh, I know what gets me off. Now I know what to do."
Yep, this little owl ain't leaving the nest.
Oh yeah, 'cause this is where he has a dream where he sees the dominatrix woman that he arrested, and then he sees her, and then they all blow up.
Yeah, I do like that she's drawn as like super like sexy in his like dream version of her. Like she never looks this good.
Oh, I didn't catch that, but yeah,
Like,
which makes
this is-
sense. I mean,
this is
he's
the, like-
it's a dream.
Yeah, the idealized version. I do like, this is this saying that Night Owl is the real him and Dan is the mask? No, it's not. But
No,
that's
it's not like.
my least favorite type of Batman, commentary is like, actually, Batman is the real personality. It's just so boring to me.
Oh, also, I didn't realize in the dream sequence he's more buff.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
This
Okay, I didn't
is
catch that.
This is him. He goes from his normal fat self to buff self to superhero self.
Yeah, like he looks like that movie star Patrick Wilson. Oh, well, that's probably why they got him to play him.
I can't believe Patrick Wilson played a normal straight man,
Also,
and not a serial killer or a gay guy or a dad.
I don't know
I'm
about
trying
you
to
guys.
think of a movie that he has.
I don't know about you guys. I can't sleep on my couch with my significant other. I'm too fucking big in general. There's no way any couch in the goddamn universe you can lay on it with your significant other and be perfectly comfortable. In a real world, he shoots up and she falls off the couch.
Yep.
Well, even then, like when you look at the other pictures of the couch is not that big. Yeah, no, there's no way two people are fitting on a couch. I don't care how. I mean, in this case, yeah, it's not happening.
Big props to Night Owl Pancake Butt, though.
Hank Hill ass.
Like, they got that right.
They also like to draw naked people in this book, which is fine. They do it quite often.
And they're not, it's, again, when I read this when I was in high school, I was like, oh my God, like, look at all this nudity. But it's not trying to be super exploitative. It is a little bit, but it's not, we're seeing like Laurie's boobs, but like in an artistic way, we're not seeing where they're in the middle of having sex. So you see a little bit of boob. It's not like, oh, she's just naked and the guy gets out of the way.
Yeah, like, it makes perfect sense for everything to play out as it does, which is great, really. Like, this,
Yeah.
it
And
feels real.
It's during this issue when they go out in the Night Owl again, and this is when they go and save the people from the burning building
Yep.
Yes.
and essentially break the law.
And then they fuck.
So now he can get it off. He can get it on.
Yep.
To be fair,
I do love. She's like, "What are you going to do next?" And he's like, "I'm going to bust Rorschach out of jail." And you just hear her dialogue balloon of like, "What?"
Like, how do you wait till after they fuck before he tells her that? So okay.
Yeah.
You don't want to piss off a woman before you try to have sex with her. Guess what? It won't work.
Yeah.
I just love she makes that joke about like, "What are you going to do with your new confidence?" And he's like, "The craziest jailbreak ever."
I like the beginning of the scene though, where he's just standing butt naked with goggles on, and it's probably one of my favorite scenes in this book. And I too now wish to achieve to stand in my basement naked with nothing but goggles on, pondering life.
I mean,
Shit,
it's not that hard. Just get some goggles and get a basement.
I
Yeah.
knew I should have done cosplay for this podcast. Damn it, I have goggles.
Hey, there's no camera, so guess what? You could.
Damn it.
I live in Texas, so I'll never be able to do the basement part.
Womp.
Attic? Your attic or your garage.
Gets pretty warm up there. I don't know.
Yeah, you're in a warm state. So, I mean, I'm in my basement right now.
What are you worried about? You'll be naked, wearing nothing but goggles. Who cares how hot up it is up there?
Yeah, that's got to be pretty all right, temperature-wise.
All right, that brings us to chapter No, this is 8. I can't read, apparently. The last one was 7. I don't know where the hell I am.
Excuse me, Mike. I'm recording a podcast 90 minutes ago.
Perfect. Oh my God. Did you actually time that out?
It is an hour and 33 minutes that we've been recording.
Oh my God. Amazing.
That's great.
And if you take the part where he disappeared for 3 minutes because the cat unplugged it, yes, you'd be about right, probably. About 3 minutes or something like that. It wasn't long.
Oh my God. Brilliant. Fantastic. Thank you.
That was good.
Thank
I will
you.
have some beer in honor of that. Good beer. All right, and then the next issue, oh God, what is this one? Let's see. This, I don't remember. Oh, there's more pirate stuff, which I didn't read.
All right. Look.
Sure, do you want to explain the pirate stuff? Oh, wasn't
We're
there
gonna
like a
talk about the
standalone
pirate stuff now?
animated movie too about the pirate thing?
Yeah, there was. There was an animated standalone movie that was cut back into the WatchMen Ultimate Cut. But look, the pirate thing is really important because it kind of gives you like this whole EC style pirate comic. You know, EC comics, the entertainment comics, or educational comics rather, that spawned, Tales from the Crypt, Vault of Terror, that type of stuff. The art style is very similar here.
Yeah.
So you have all these pirates on this black freighter, and they're bad, nasty pirates, possibly supernatural. Actually, they pretty much are supernatural, but it's Tales from the Black Freighter just chronicles their effect on the people they encounter. And this particular story is a guy marooned who has to do some just truly awful things to try to get back home, to try to survive, to save his family, because the Black Freighter is on its way to their town. Like, he knows this. Apparently, there's only one town that's in the path of this boat, and it happens to be his. How convenient. But he has to make a raft to get off this island that he's marooned on. And he has to use the bodies of his shipmates as ballast because they're full of gas from decaying, and he uses them for flotation, and he has to eat seagulls and eat shark, and he just becomes this monster. And he gets back home, and he tries to kill his family
Well,
because
he gets confused about like what's going on, and
yes, like it's not his life anymore. And the story ends with him swimming back to the Black Freighter, which has shown up to join the crew, because that's all he is now. He is a monster. He is not fit for the human world.
right. And then you find out that the Black Freighter was only picking up one person, and they were only interested in him because he's the monster.
And throughout, it really parallels the events of the stories. It's there for thematic backing. And I really like it. Like, I like how they interweave in between. And, like, I get that you don't like it. It's fine. I'm never going to say everybody has to like everything. It's a comic book. It's a buffet. Eat what you like and leave the rest. But I personally dig it. I dig the under the hood. I dig all the interstitial stuff, like in the last chapter, Dan's article about owls.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much information here. And the more you know going into it, or the more you read into the events that are happening, I feel like the more you get out of it. But I don't think you have to have that experience in order to enjoy this book.
No, I don't. I agree with you. I mean, I don't enjoy this book a lot, but I don't think it's it's nice that there's extra flavor text there, that there's more stuff, but like I feel like without reading the extra under the hood stuff, without reading the pirate stuff, you still can get everything that's going on with the book.
Yeah, it's just there. It's like Tony Chachere's Cajun seasoning. It just makes everything a little bit better. I'm not sponsored by them.
All right, and it's during this issue when you have that. Okay, this is when they're talking about the jailbreak, and you have, which I heard they changed in the movie, where you have people. Rorschach's in his prison cell. And there's people like there's some little short guy that wants to murder him.
Big Figure.
What I missed what you said.
I said Big Figure. That's his name.
Oh,
Yeah,
He's a short little crime boss named Big Figure.
because he put him in prison, right? That's what it was.
Yep, he and Night Owl both put him in there.
Okay, and this is the same point when you have this random cop show up and be like, "Oh, hey, you wouldn't happen to have a, kind of makes a hint about like, yeah, I know you're Night Owl. Don't you dare break him out of prison." Essentially. Like, I know you're friends with them. Don't you dare.
By the way, sorry, didn't mean to almost hit your lock repairman.
You sure have a lot of sugar cubes. Last time I checked, Rorschach sure likes eating those goddamn things. Oh, that is weird.
He had him in his pocket. And this is a scene that I did not catch until this reading through. I actually caught it. There's a small, like, 6-panel part where you have some artist talking to a guy, and she's drawing a weird, like, creature. Or she mentioned how she drew a picture of the creature before they took it off in the boat. And it finally clicked, like, oh, that's the alien at the end of this book.
Right, and the writer that is the guy there is they had just introduced him as far as like this comic book writer artist who's disappeared, and they so the New Frontier is saying, hey, this guy's missing, and then he's not missing, he's wherever he is, where they're drawing a very sexual looking I don't know, alien eyeball thing.
Parrot squid. That's what I like to think of it as.
Yeah, it is very sexualized, though, too. I mean, it looks sexual in nature.
But fun story about that gentleman there, the writer. That would be, what's his name here? Max Shea is his name, who in Universe wrote Tales of the Black Freighter.
Oh.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So it's not like it has nothing to do with anything. It's just tangentially connected.
Oh, it's about to get more connected, though.
And this is kind of when it jumps to with him in the prison where I think they lost power or something, or oh no, there's a riot happening at the same time or is it a riot that's happening because of Night Owl?
It's not because of Night Owl, is it?
No.
Okay, I thought it was at first. Okay, they're just having a riot.
I think it's because that guy Rorschach fucked up, died.
Yeah, it's a race war.
Yeah, it was the 80s. That happened a lot.
Okay, because this is when they have the guy in prison that's they're trying to cut open his cell, and then that's when he breaks the guy's fingers, and then we'll just slit your throat and keep cutting the lock off.
Yeah, it was much gorier in Watchmen, the movie.
That's what I heard.
Well, because in the comic it doesn't make sense why they cut his throat, because they're like, well, he's kind of in the way, but like in like the next page or a couple pages later, you see them cutting the lock with him still in the way. But in the movie, they're like, well, we can't get to the lock with him in the way, and you could tell he's in the way. And so what they do is they cut his arms off to get to the lock.
Which looks dope.
Yeah, I can't tell why they did that.
I mean, I guess if they were going
to burn him.
Yeah, if they were going to take a blowtorch to his arm anyway, it wasn't going to go well, so they are slitting his throat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like,
because they can't care when you're dead.
Yeah.
Okay, this is when Rorschach electrocutes them. Oh, okay, now I get it. Because then the guy runs to the bathroom, and then when Night Owl and them rescue him, that's why he goes to the bathroom. Which I didn't catch that he went to go kill him.
Yeah.
I figured that's what he's doing. I'm like, there's no, like, they didn't do anything to really push that. But I guess that's supposed to be why the water is coming out, or the reddish tint to the water. I guess I don't know. Doesn't really.
Yeah. Again, I will say I don't approve of Rorschach, but it's like he is full like Freddy Krueger here. You're just like, okay, he's terrifying, but you're like, it's kind of cool.
It's cool in its own way, and I apologize. I don't also agree with a lot of it, but I'm also a complete edgelord. I love all edgelord things. I do like him standing there, and then him like for instance him breaking the guy's fingers, and then wrapping his arms up and being like, your move. And then they do something else, and he electrocutes him, and it's like, I'm still winning. And he's like, oh, like, you can't beat me, even if I'm locked up.
Yeah, that was kind of funny.
Yeah, he's so, and again, Rorschach is so emotionally broken. Like, he's not even, like, celebrating or, like, quipping about it. He's just like, yeah, never killed garbage with garbage before. Like, that's kind of as close as he gets to a joke.
And he's very matter of fact about the whole thing. Like, he's not trying to throw it in anybody's face. He's just like, look, here's how it is. Think you can win. You can't win. I will prove it. I will even wait for you here with the door open. Make your move. And every time, just 1-0, 2-0.
I did like that. I thought that was kind of cool. It's one of the few times where I'm like, okay, I like what he's doing.
Probably the coolest thing he does this entire book, honestly.
Pretty much. And again, like that is probably the best scene in the Watchmen movie. Is the opening montage is very good, and the prison scene is good.
Yeah, I heard the prison scene is much more than like this. You see them punch a couple guards, and that's it. I've heard in the movie it's like huge fight scene.
Yeah. Which again, I mean, he's good at those scenes, so it works out.
Yeah.
Not all he's good at doing. So yeah.
Hey, Dawn of the Dead was a damn fine movie.
I hate that movie. When I saw that movie in theaters, I was so upset. I went home and wrote my first novel, which doesn't exist anymore because I was so upset with the way they did zombies. So that movie pushed me to make a book, which I wish I still had.
Be honest, you were mad that they said it took place in Milwaukee and they didn't shoot it in Milwaukee.
You didn't have enough local beers.
And for those that don't know, the joke is I'm from Milwaukee. So
that's my favorite zombie movie of all time.
Oh, it's fucking garbage.
It's really good because it's really believable.
Man, you said Resident Evil, I'd be on board with you. Like, okay, but no.
Like it's fun. That's what it is.
It is also fun too. Yeah.
It's terrible movie.
I think you need to watch it again, Mike. I think I know what we're doing for Spooktober.
I do too.
Making Mike watch movies he doesn't want to watch.
Yep, that's a great Patreon poll. Sign up today.
Hey, it's got to be movies that Mike's never seen. Mike saw that in theaters and left upset. So
that's why we got to do movies that Mike doesn't like.
That'll be next year. Next year's design.
All Zack Snyder movies, like Sucker Punch, Dawn of the Dead, and like 2 other movies.
Never seen 300. Never saw his other one. Never saw Watchmen. Yeah.
Well,
oh man,
you got your work cut out for you. Yeah, around this time, Dr. Manhattan comes back to Earth and is like, "Laurie, this is the time where we go to Mars."
She's like, "What the fuck?" Yeah, that was weird. And at the same time, they raid the building, and then Night Owl and Rorschach escape through the ship, or with the ship through the tunnels. You have a weird scene of Moloch getting killed. It's Moloch, right? Or no, it's someone else.
That's the original Night Owl.
Oh, okay, that's what it was. Yes. Yeah. Because Moloch already got killed. He got shot in the head. Okay, this is when you. Yeah, I thought this was weird where you just have this random gang come in and kick us and just kill him.
Well, they heard that Night Owl broke Rorschach out of prison.
Oh, so they go after the old Night Owl, not realizing who's who.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's the problem when you share a name with another hero.
And you write a book saying, "I'm a famous superhero."
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
But now I just run a garage in my neighborhood.
And now I'm dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
They kill him with a trophy that he was given by like the city or whatever.
It's kind of cool that like the Silver Age look of it or Golden Age look of it, where they have them like, you know, where you see, oh, I'm fighting gangsters, but it's not really like that's not what's happening at all because he's an old man now.
Well, that's how he's fighting him in his mind.
Yeah, it's not in real life.
Until
the comic book real life,
he doesn't, win that fight.
Until he gets smacked in the face with a trophy.
Yeah. So
now that brings us
for Hollis Mason, y'all.
Now that brings us to chapter 9. This is weird. This starts off with Dr. Manhattan teleporting Laurie to Mars, but he forgets that she can't breathe, so he doesn't put like oxygen around her because he's an asshole.
Well, just doesn't consider it.
But also, I'm pretty sure that if you went into space with nothing, you'd just be dead.
Well, that doesn't make for a good comic book, Mike.
Where Laurie just dies. She's just dead.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I want to talk to you, but...
If her organs like rapidly explode out of her body due to absolutely no gravity, as pretty as that would look and as spiffy as I'm sure that Dave Gibbons could make it, that's kind of the end of your story. So you take some justice. You take some creative allowances there.
Take some liberties with your book.
That's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anytime. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, I was like, wait, yeah. I'm like, yeah, she should be dead. I don't know. I didn't really care for the stuff with her on Mars, if I do like the part where he's like, this is the part you tell me that you were sleeping with, the Night Owl. I did like that.
Oh.
And I do like there's a joke earlier on that I think her mother makes where she's like, well, an atom bomb doesn't need to get laid every once in a while. There was some stuff like that I thought was funny.
Man. But like, this is important. Like, this is basically Laurie making the case for humanity. And like, she has to succeed here. Otherwise the Earth is done.
But the weird part,
so you think.
But the weird part is that so we've already established that Dr. Manhattan can see into the past, into the future, constantly running, whatever his whole deal about it is. So he knows that she's going to win him over, but it's also a thing of, well, I've got to let it play out the way it is, or, it'll mess everything up.
Does he know? Because there are tachyons that are blocking some view of the future. So I don't know if they ever really explain how far they're blocking.
They do not.
I think it's blocking the part where he ends up getting killed. So I think everything that happens later on with Osmodeus is basically what's being blocked out. He just knows that this is the path that he needs to go through to get what is essentially the perfect future.
Osmodeus is a demon.
I've never seen the movie, so I don't know how it's pronounced.
And I think this is all during this is when he tells Lori about her past. Or Lori is talking to him and talks about how she met the comedian, how she got drunk one night and went off on the comedian. And this is when she finds out that, surprise, he's her father.
Yeah, I love that she just basically figures it out herself. And this is, oof, man, it's a hell of a thing. And
that's a good way to put it. Yes.
Oh,
it's quite fucked up.
And guess what? Just to add insult to injury, I know this is one thing the movie does not handle well. Because I believe in the movie, he tries to sleep with her, not knowing it's his daughter.
I'm pretty sure you're correct.
Fucking Zack Snyder.
Yep. Or I'm thinking of that goofy Watchmen parody. I don't remember. Everything's kind of mixed up right now.
Is this a porn parody or a regular parody? I'm just not sure.
It's the Watchmen cartoon parody. Together forever.
Oh, Venture Brothers?
No, they're the best of friends. Everybody watch the Watchmen. It's like a really weird cartoon where if they were like a 90s kids cartoon.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Someone posted it in the Facebook chat.
Yeah, it was in the chat.
Yeah, someone knows what I'm talking about.
I got nothing. Okay.
Anyways.
And I guess the whole point of this issue is just having her argue the humanity and how humanity needs to be saved. I guess. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say about this other than I didn't catch that the bottle that she's drinking out of and throws and breaks is the same bottle that was in a commercial for Osmodeus earlier.
Oh, that's not a drink, Mike. It's perfume.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
She's just throwing perfume, but that's Nostalgia by Vite Industries.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And she mentions to Dan when they're having sex that she's using it.
Ah, weird.
Yeah.
Okay. I learned something new. All right. Yeah, and then I guess the whole cat at the same time when she flips out, she throws the thing. His castle breaks down all at once, and then they leave.
I worked hard
weird.
on that.
That's what I thought too. So all you really do is think. He doesn't really do a whole lot.
Was there a reason he made a castle? Did he just do it for shits and giggles?
Well, it was a watch castle.
Yeah, it's because he was thinking about if he would have become a watchmaker.
Yeah.
No, okay.
And he made a castle so he could have somewhere to talk to Laurie because he knew he was going to.
And they're in a big smiley face.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, they are.
Which I guess is real or something they were saying. There's actually kind of looking like smiley face thing on Mars. I don't know.
I believe that. I'm not
That's
big.
what YouTube said.
There's a face on Mars. There's also a butt on Uranus. But, we don't really talk about that one.
There.
Okay. That was good. All right. And that brings us to chapter 10. And this is when I guess it's kind of more going into the fact that the war is coming, that there's going to be a nuclear war. I mean, that's also what Laurie was fighting about, saying if you don't come down here and stop it, there's going to be a war.
Yeah, chapter 10, I don't know. It's probably my least favorite chapter because it kind of abandons being a detective story. And it's it's Ozymandias. It's super clear. There were some hints earlier, and now it's just it's him.
Yeah, it's a fair way to put it. And this is when they talked about how the Night Owl and Rorschach are hiding underwater for a while because they got to make sure the police aren't going to catch them. And he has to go back to his house to go get his mask because he's like, I need my real face. Because he talks about, the mask is his face, and because he's crazy. So,
well, see, it's like saying that Batman is really the real identity, and Bruce Wayne is the mask that he wears in public, right?
Yep.
I feel like we've had this conversation actually on Batman issues before.
I feel like we've had this conversation earlier in this podcast.
Yes.
That too.
I mentioned it earlier, but yeah.
Yeah, you did. But I feel like we also talked about it in other things too.
Oh, so good. So good.
All right.
Anyway.
This is when you start seeing more about Ozymandias. You see his Fortress of Solitude up in the Antarctic that he built. And I think this is when they start putting together that he was somehow involved in it. Is that this issue?
They're at least starting the search.
Okay, because he goes to the bar, he breaks people's fingers for no reason, and then they... Oh, then I think... Oh, that's when you find out the guy that was trying to kill Ozymandias, or whatever the fuck his name is, somehow was involved or something. I didn't really know what was going on.
All right, so basically, first off, guy holding a glass in his hand, and then you just squeeze his hand and crush the glass, that's pretty brutal. Like, Rorschach ain't fucking around.
He's an asshole.
Yep. Rorschach finds the guy that hired Roy Chess, who was the guy that shot Adrian Veidt. And he's like, yeah, he worked for Pyramid Deliveries. And I got offered the thing by my boss. And I don't know if there were any poison capsules. And everybody else around me is dying. And, my boss, he fell under a subway train. And I need protection. And Rorschach is not being unreasonable here for once. But Night Owl is losing his goddamn mind.
And then they go to Ozymandias and find what information, I guess, that he was somehow involved in it all.
Yeah, they get there. But first, you see a bunch of people on a boat. And you've been seeing this mark everywhere, this circle with a pyramid inside of it, or a triangle. Well, I'm pretty sure that's one of Ozymandias' shell companies. But this is where they're talking more about the project that they were all working on this island. And, you got your writer, you got your artist, there's a couple of other people, a geneticist, musicians, and they're finally leaving the island, and then the boat blows up.
Womp womp.
Oh, I didn't catch it. The boat blew up. I was wondering what happened to the people, but okay, that makes perfect sense. That he killed them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they find, there's a man, a woman canoodling, and they find a C4 bomb.
Yep,
Right.
It's the artist and the writer from the earlier scene.
Yeah.
And just let that go to show you, if you ever get an urge to have sex in a weird place, do it. There might be explosives.
Okay, I did catch that, but I didn't catch that it was the same boat.
Oh, yep.
I don't know why my brain didn't put two and two together earlier when I read that.
But after this is when they break into Adrian's office. And oh boy.
Yeah, I just feel like this is the weakest reveal when Night Owl puts in his password and he tries Ramses and it doesn't work and he's like Ramses I and they're like, hello Adrian. So stupid.
Would you like me to go over your evil plan again?
And it's just so funny because Rorschach's in the background just like, oh, we're not closer to solving this mystery. Everybody is doing something weird. We'll never be able to figure it out. I don't understand what's going on. Too bad. Oh, I don't get it. And Dan's just working in the background. Dum-de-dum-de-dum. Whoops, I fucked up and found everything.
I know the first time I read this, I found it weird when I found out that he was involved with so much of the killing.
Here, if you're reading it for the first time, yeah, no, it's totally weird.
This is also where you find out that Rorschach mailed the journal to the frontiersmen because they have his journal and they put it on a pile of garbage, essentially.
Yeah, the crank pile, as they call it.
Which plays a part later.
So, I have a question real quick, which will follow through towards the ending. So Rorschach's the one who mails his journal to, the newsletter, right?
Yep.
So he mails it after they find out that, I'm going to say it wrong again, I apologize. That's where they find out Ozymandias is the one, or so. It implies that he put in the journal that he's the one who's behind all of it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so Rorschach has kept notes throughout this entire story. He's put it all in the journal and shipped it off to the one place he feels he trusts with this information, which is like, I have figured out exactly what's wrong with this world. I know how to achieve world peace. I'm going to go on vacation. I'm going to send it to Alex Jones.
Oh, why would you phrase it like that? That's so bad.
On purpose.
That's how it is, though.
Yeah.
And I personally have beef with Alex Jones because that motherfucker's birthday is exactly the same as mine.
Oh,
Not the year, but the same day in February.
My condolences. This is like Cody, who I recorded with, who hates the other Cody. All of a sudden, my brain just... Cody Laveau, the other Cody Laveau that's like a Nazi on YouTube. I had the same last name as him.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, ew.
That's what it reminded me of.
we do get to probably one of my favorite little tidbits about this comic.
What is that?
It's when they go to the secret lair, and we find out, and they touch on it a little bit earlier, but Night Owl basically has 90s Batman toy clothes.
Oh, yes.
He's got a gas assault, he's got a stealth suit, and in this scene he puts on a little snow owl outfit, and it's all wrapped up in warm and nice.
I like this.
Yeah.
I got a kick out of it. Like, oh, hey, you're going to buy his toy.
Yeah, I do think that's cute. I will say in the movie, they have the Bob Dylan, two riders were approaching and the wind began to howl is the quote here. They just play that over this scene and it's just like, come on, man. Like, it's so on the nose.
It's so literal.
I know. I find it to be. I like this. I enjoyed it. Like the whole when they crash in Antarctica, and then he gets. I do like that snowsuit, and I do like how like Oz is like, oh yeah, everything's happening as planned. All right.
And then they're riding like, what is it? Johnny Quest scooters.
Yeah, essentially.
It does look like that. Yes, little hover bikes.
Yeah.
And that
And then we
brings
go
us
to
to
chapter 11.
Yes, we're getting there. I
So
did like this.
close.
I remember when I first saw this, and you just see like this biodome that Oz has made. Had he killed his? Okay, no, this is the issue where he kills his people.
Yeah.
He killed all the artists last issue, and now he kills
Yes.
his own people at the Arctic Research Station or whatever.
His Vietnamese, I don't know, roommates,
Employees.
I guess. I don't know.
I mean, they were employees until he drugs him with poison, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's.
He poisons their wine while he's monologuing.
And
Yeah,
then,
but
like,
at the same time, there's a very small scene that doesn't mean anything to you the first time you read this that I noticed that kind of hit a little differently. Where it says 11:25 and you see him press a button where he flips over a panel and presses a red button.
Mhm.
And I'm like, oh, I know what that is now. So, Joe, someone that never read this before, did you think anything about this random panel?
Of course I did. You know why? Because I think I said it before. This movie's been completely spoiled for me.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I when he pushed that button and walked away, I'm like, oh, okay. What I didn't understand is his weird painting reference.
what, his Alexander the Great?
Yeah, what's up with that? Where he has a painting of him cutting wood in half or something?
Well, it's the Gordian knot. That's the thing that was sort of referenced earlier, where he's like, "Oh, the only way is to just go right through, and instead of
Figuring it out.
yeah." And so
Okay.
he's the next Alexander or whatever. And they even sort of have this sort of mural style drawing of Alexander where it's supposed to look like him, which I don't know. The Macedonians had blonde hair and blue eyes, but whatever.
And white skin.
Colin Farrell did in that movie.
Hey, he had brown hair, and well, actually, he might have had blonde hair, but he had brown eyes for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one weird tidbit. So I've never seen the Watchmen movie. I've seen clips because I couldn't afford it at an earlier age, and then I never bothered to watch it. And even now, whenever Mike asked me to read the comic for the podcast and everything, I didn't want to watch the movie because I was like, I want to go into the comic clean without any references. I always thought Oz was like Superman, and I always thought that he was another alien creature or whatever. And I don't know why I always read it that his race was called the Oz, whatever they're called.
Oh, okay.
But coming into this and finding out that he's just a guy who's really smart, I'm like, oh, that's pretty fucking.
Well, he's kind of
the man.
smart with exceptional delusions of grandeur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, exceptional.
Like that whole idea, the whole thing where he goes, like during his monologue, he's like, I wanted to be like Alexander the Great, so I gave up my fortune and I traveled the world. I'm like, you still had a fortune if you're traveling the world because it ain't free. I can tell you that right now. If it was free, I would have probably done it at some point. It ain't free.
Oh, but Mike, it's the 60s, so you probably could do it for like pennies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You ain't doing it now for pennies, that's for sure.
Yeah, no.
For a couple $100, you could travel the world.
Back in the 60s.
Yeah.
And then after he kills his workers, he just turns off opens up the biodome and just covers them in snow.
Yeah, I do like the action scene where Night Owl and Rorschach try to sneak up on him, and he just beats the shit out of them without really trying.
Yes.
Yeah, that was good. He's like, I don't have to do anything. You guys suck.
Yeah, I mean, like, he sees Rorschach's reflection in the dining dish. So he just, no, we're not going to do that. Man,
He knew they were coming anyway. Like, he saw it on camera.
yeah.
So not like he's, oh, surprise, you're here. Oh, okay. Like, I knew you were coming.
He's just very calm throughout this entire thing. Just like, guys, come on. Do we really have to do this? Please? Jesus.
Yes, we do.
Fucking sort yourself out.
Yeah, in his own mind, he's like, I'm a hero, you're a hero, like I respect you guys, but like we shouldn't have to fight, even though it's like everything he's doing is supervillain stuff.
Yeah, pretty much.
But
You know.
is it really?
Oh, it is. 100%.
So
But he's
we're almost
he's
there.
saving us from World War III or whatever he's doing.
Yeah, that's super villain. All right.
The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, or the 3 million.
Yeah, welcome to Utilitarianism 101, baby.
Pretty much, huh? He was just trying to make the world great again, okay?
I never. I do love that Rorschach keeps trying, though.
Yeah.
So we,
As he's explaining everything.
I don't want to go forward a little too much, but I think one thing that's interesting is you in the earlier part of the comic. I forgot to mention this. You can there's obviously small hints that he's the bad guy with him like shoving the tooth in the guy's mouth. But I think there's a part where he's talking to his toy people and they're mentioning like, "Oh, you don't have a bad guy," and he's like, "You're right. I don't have a bad guy." And he's like looking at his toys, and I guess that's also supposed to imply that he's the one that's gonna do everything.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. That's kind of...
Like, there's a lot of this part that this chapter really does well, even though it's pretty much just him monologuing the entire damn time.
But
it's known for this, where the whole monologue of, how can you do this crazy plan? What do you mean, do it? I already did it 35 minutes ago. Like, that's what this whole thing is known for.
Yeah, I do like his ego of he's just like, when I met the comedian, I knew we were very much alike. That's why we hated each other so much. I'm like, did the comedian just hate everybody? Like, I don't know that he, respected you so damn much that he hated you.
Yeah. Like, I'm pretty sure he just hated you because you were a douchebag.
Yeah. He thought you were a little rich guy who played dress up and weren't really serious.
And the comedian's an asshole too, so
Yeah.
It all fits. And then throughout this issue, right before the shit hits the fan, literally you have people like fighting. You have characters that you saw off and on, like you have the lesbian couple, and she starts just beating the shit out of her girlfriend. And you see other people. You saw the psychologist, the kid that was reading the comic, the guy that's selling the paper. Like, they all kind of are. It's all happening right in front of them, and then all of a sudden you just see white light.
I think one of a really like nice and cute detail too is the lights coming towards them, and you see the newspaper man like try to shield the kid from the blast. Obviously, it doesn't work, but
Yeah.
And it's cute though.
Yeah. I do love that it happens right in front of the Institute for Extraspatial Studies. Like, that's fantastic.
Okay, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. I do like, that character, the newspaper guy, where he at first is like, are you going to buy this or aren't you? And then he like ends up seeing like himself in this kid and is like, here, have my hat.
It's got the same name.
Yeah. It gives him his cap, like gives him the comic, and then tries to help him at the end. Like, it's very sweet.
It really is.
Yeah.
there's also kind of a thing too where this is 68 and the kid's a kid of color, and normally an old white man and a kid of color don't usually get along. And I like that they get along.
Right. Well, this is taking place in 87.
Oh yeah, what's the 80s? So that people, even then in the 80s, people didn't get along that well.
Yeah, it was still a bit dicey back in the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, he's saying a lot of very like right wing crazy stuff, and then you seeing like, well, he's not like hateful.
Mm-hmm. And then the start for the next comic, we finally get an explanation as to why we keep seeing a clock with blood dripping slowly towards it.
I mean, I had forgotten this part. Like, I remember bits and pieces, but I had forgotten when I started chapter 12, and the first page you get is just the clock strikes midnight with blood and just bodies everywhere.
Oh God,
it's fucked up.
It ruined the concert for Pale Horse with Crystal Knocked that was playing that.
Yeah, let's talk about Crystal Knocked real quick here.
What?
Some pretty questionable death metal going on in this world.
Yeah. Like, first off, Pale Horse, fine, okay. I get it. You know, I saw a pale horse and the man that rode upon him was death, blah, blah, blah. Okay, Bible reference. I get it. Crystal Knocked, unfortunately, though. is very much a horrible historical event that happened in the lead up to World War II, where Nazis were like, hey, we're not going to have any organized protests or any organized things, but hey, if they start organically, oh well. And that led to a bunch of Jewish businesses and homes just being absolutely destroyed.
Yeah.
And that's why they called it Kristallnacht, because of all the broken glass that littered the streets.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. It took a second, then it clicked.
That's a shitty band name.
Yeah, that's bad.
And I also didn't realize that the movie that's playing is The Day the Earth Stood Still in one of the panels, too. Yeah,
that's fine.
I just never caught that. I didn't catch that. And I was so, like, you have, like, just page over every page in this book, or, like, most of them, have tons of word bubbles, tons of panels, and this is just 4 pages of just the drawing of the squid monster in New York and dead bodies everywhere.
Right. And it's of people we know. Like, it's the psychiatrist, it's the lesbian couple, it's the newspaper guy. Like, they're all dead.
Yeah. Everybody was just murdered in a terrible fashion.
How terrible was it, really?
I guess they died instantly.
Did they, though?
I think the idea is that they're supposed to die instantly.
Yeah, like, I'm pretty sure they all died instantly.
Also,
I mean, that's if you got to go, that'd be one way to go. Just instant, boom, your brain doesn't have time to register it.
to add insult to injury, there's a big-ass fucking dead alien in the middle of goddamn New York now.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. Like, I like that a lot. I really like this ending. As far as endings go, this is great. And this is where Zack Snyder dropped the fucking ball.
Yeah, that ending is so stupid. I know we're not reviewing the movie, but man, it's dumb.
I heard it was like, I was watching a YouTube video that compared the movie and the comic, and it was like it's a nuclear bomb or something, or
no, it's basically he frames Dr. Manhattan and has him blow up multiple cities throughout the world. And it's like, yeah, but America would still be blamed for Dr. Manhattan. Like, how would this unite the world except against America?
Well, he doesn't make Dr. Manhattan blow him up. He learns how to make like an explosion the same way he makes it.
Right.
So,
he frames him by creating like basically atom bombs in like 10 cities or whatever. So this is just New York. But they're like, no, I did this to London and Paris and whatever. And since it happened to everyone, they're going to think that Dr. Manhattan did this as like an act against humanity or something like that.
Yeah, because it happened in America too.
Yeah, it's dumb.
It's stupid. Now this, I could see this uniting the world.
Oh, aliens? Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Big fuck off alien appears and it's like psychically kills 3 million people.
Oh, yeah. And then Nixon comes up and says we should have a military force called a Space Force. Yeah, that's totally what would happen.
Yeah, I mean, like, think about how much juice America got out after 9/11, where we got, basically everyone except France to go along with our pointless wars in Iraq.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
man,
imagine if you multiplied that by a factor of like 1,000.
Yeah, because is it like all of New York that gets blown up?
Well,
it's a good chunk of New York. They say 3 million people died.
Oh yeah, no, we'd be fucked.
Like, if it would be basically everyone would be on our side for whatever it is, whatever XCOM project we would start funding.
I mean, they also say that they don't know if it's like interdimensional or what it was. They have no idea what happened.
Right. And I love the fact that as Adrian's explaining this, Dan's like, but come on, what'd you really do? What'd you really do, Adrian? God.
Or when Dr. Manhattan then teleports them to the place, and he's like, oh, look at this. This is interesting. And Laurie's like, get me the fuck out of here. The way you should be acting. She's acting correctly. She can't always say that in this comic, but in this part, she's actually acting correctly. And then they go to then this is when Dr. Manhattan goes to the Arctic, and I think Rorschach still wants to kill him, and then Rorschach's like, okay, I'm going to turn him in because where he tries to kill Dr. Manhattan, where he walks into the thing and he like tries to electrocute him or fry him or whatever the hell he does with the cat and kills the poor cat.
Jumped over so many things.
Oh, okay, you are right. I did, yes. I'm flipping through pages.
And he got to the gist.
But we missed so much humor. Because
there's so much humor. That's where you go.
Yeah, I already talked about how Night Owl's like, now come on, quit fucking around. What'd you really do? And the entire time Rorschach's like, get that cat out of here. I'm going to fuck you up. Leave the cat. And Ozymandias is like, you idiot. The cat's the only thing that's saving you from the humiliation of another beating. And Night Owl is having so many problems. Because he's like, well, what if your assassin had shot you first instead of your secretary? And Ozymandias is like, well, I would have had to catch the bullet, wouldn't I? No.
You can't catch a bullet.
You can't do that, can you? And he just kind of does his smile. No. You're crazy. This isn't working. Like, none of this makes sense. And Ozymandias is like, I will keep telling you this. Because this is what makes sense.
I mean, it makes sense that they don't want to believe him.
Well, like, it's the stupidest fucking thing ever done.
Well, the idea, I get behind the idea that you need to have a common foe in order to unite the world. Like, the idea is always that, like in Star Trek, for example, that when we do, when we find out that we get space travel, we find out there's other aliens and other things out there, that we then finally unite as a world because we have a reason to. Do I think that's going to happen? No. But I like the idea of it.
Yep. And then, so Dr. Manhattan shows up and Ozymandias just runs and hides and lures him towards a similar experiment to what created Dr. Manhattan in the first place with his little pet Lynx monster thing.
I like that monster.
And this is where you get Dr. Manhattan telling Rorschach, yes, he killed Blake in half New York. Excuse me, Rorschach. I'm informing Laurie 90 seconds ago.
Yeah, that was good. Okay, this is where Laurie shoots him, too.
Yeah, Laurie gets in eventually.
Yeah, Laurie shoots him, but then looks at his body on the ground and sees that only his hands are bleeding.
Because he caught the fucking bullet!
What is that? Like his hands are raw or something from catching a bullet?
But he's alive.
And alive enough to kick her in the gut.
Yeah, which is
and I
kind of
love it. He's like, there, something else I wasn't sure would work.
What, kicking a woman in the gut?
No, that's a bullet.
Okay, I was going to say, okay.
And I love that he tells him, do grow up. Like, that's probably the most insulting thing you can say to somebody.
I agree.
Well, yeah, his point is basically that, like, putting on a little costume and, like, beating up drug dealers is stupid.
He's not wrong, though.
Yes. He's very much, it's like, ultimately, if Spider-Man was a utilitarian, he wouldn't be just, like, patrolling New York, beating up supervillains. He would be, like, I don't know, saving people in some place that needs a lot more help than, New York.
Yeah, like, I don't know, Detroit. They need help.
Yeah, there's no superhero in Detroit, is there?
There's the Justice League Detroit for a little while, but I don't know. There's the Great Lakes Avengers.
Wait, wasn't Steel from Detroit?
Maybe.
That sounds accurate. Superman? I don't remember. I never read Steel stuff.
Who was that? John Henry Irons? Is that who that was?
Yes.
That's the only comic book name, all right, if I ever heard one.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember.
And then after he catches the bullet, you have them where he turns in, or after Dr. Manhattan comes back as a giant man and like bursts through the wall.
And he's not mad, he's just disappointed.
Yeah.
He's like, you should know better. Like, you just can't kill me.
And then, so do Night Owl and Silver Spectre have sex in like a pool of cologne or something?
It's just a pool, I think.
Yeah, I think it's just like a hot tub.
Okay, because she said something about nostalgia. I guess she's talking about that she's still wearing the cologne.
Yeah.
And then Rorschach storms out, and Dr. Manhattan follows him and goes, "Hey, it seems I've caught in a bad case of ligma." And and Rorschach goes, "What are you talking about?" And Dr. Manhattan goes, "Lick my balls," and then blows him up.
I mean, essentially.
Because Rorschach's going to go back and tell everyone that Oz is the one that did all this.
I mean, I would.
Yeah.
And this is where I think you probably get the most misquoted line from the entire thing. No, not in the face of Armageddon. Never compromise. Which, that's just fucking stupid. Grow up, bro.
Yeah. Plus, he compromises all the time throughout this book. This was pointed out to me.
Yeah.
He makes compromises throughout this book. So
he's not incapable of it. He's just being a petulant child.
He's just an asshole.
His
I don't like
code won't let him. He'd rather just die than.
I think he just wants to die in general. He's a miserable man.
But this is another scene in the movie that is really good.
Where I'm assuming that it's very in Zack Snyder way. It's very graphical when he blows up into blood.
Oh, he blows him up into a Rorschach blotch. It's great.
Oh,
that's actually pretty cool.
Okay. I'll watch the movie at some point.
Yeah, like Jackie Earle Haley as Rorschach really is just too fucking good for this world.
Okay, I am curious to see the movie. I'll put it on a poll, maybe. Maybe we'll see.
But this is where you got Dr. Manhattan kind of walking, and the TVs are playing, and they're proving that Adrian was right.
Yeah, because there's peace talks. There's Russia's like, okay, I'll stop invading Pakistan and Afghanistan. Not that we're losing to Afghanistan like we should be in real life history. No, we're just going to turn back and we'll be friendly now.
And then he walks in and he goes to the pool and he sees Lori and Dan cuddled up in post-coital affection, and he smiles.
He's laughing because Lori's the big spoon.
I mean, Lori is absolutely the big spoon in that relationship.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Yep, and I like that they draw him walking across the pool, making sure to point out that yes, Dr. Manhattan's still hanging dung.
They like to do that when they can, huh?
Yep, and then he walks up the ceiling, or walks up the wall rather, into Ozymandias' private abode.
And this is supposed to have something to do with that whole pirate thing, right? The fact that he's just sitting here alone.
I mean, kinda. Like, he's just hanging out and is like, you know what? I'm winning. I'm just going to sit here and be happy with myself.
I do like the comment of him being like, I did the right thing at the end, right? And he's like, what do you mean the end? Like, everything lives on forever. And he's like, wait, what? And he just walks away, or he teleports away.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
But I mean, Ozymandias does say, well, I dream about swimming toward a hideous... No, never mind. It is insignificant. So, like, he sees himself as that monster, 100%. He's read the books. That's why he took Max Shea in the first place.
Right.
Okay.
Right. He knows he's morally compromised by doing this, but he's like, well, I had to, and I've thought about it, and it was the right thing to do, right? I don't know why he thought Dr. Manhattan would be like, yeah, that was the morally correct thing to do, because he's just like, I don't know.
He's like, I don't give a shit. I'm leaving. Doesn't he say he's off to go create a new world or something, or go find a new world?
Yeah.
Right.
He's going to go he's leaving this galaxy for one less complicated.
Which 30 years later becomes the DC universe.
Oh yeah, that happens.
I never read it, but
it fucking doesn't.
If it makes you feel better, it's like 90% Zack Snyder's fault.
Doesn't happen. I don't know what you're talking about.
In the WatchMen movie, whenever it shows like vigilantism on the rise, it's one of the superheroes punching out like a guy and there's a couple in the back, and apparently it's supposed to imply that couple is Bruce Wayne's parents, and that the vigilante saved Bruce Wayne's parents from being shot. And Zack Snyder confirmed that that's true.
No.
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 And then the last, I think it's one of the last scenes is you have, God, what the hell is Laurie's mother's name? Sally? Sally in the assisted living community, not a nursing home, assisted living community. Get it right. She's there, and then she has two people come visit her, and then it's her, Laurie, and Hawkman. Also, I forgot his name too, Dan.
Dan.
And I don't know why I could not remember Owlman. I don't know why you got Hawkman for. I'm tired. But and then they come there and they have they look differently. They're going by different names because again they're wanted criminals. So if they had to make new identities.
So
there's a touching little scene.
Does not work for Dan.
No, it doesn't. Or the mustache.
No, I think the mustache could work if it was a dark color.
But it makes sense. You got to look differently. I mean, they probably assume you're dead at this point, but still, if you're wanted, like you need to look differently.
Boy, Laurie, go ahead, Ken.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, there's a difference between looking differently and looking like a pedophile.
Okay, fair.
I was going to say the awkward moment of Dan going, boy, Laurie, I sure am glad your mom gave me this pornography of her when she was younger.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's that.
He gives a Tijuana Bible to Dan.
Like, it's kind of cute.
And then Sally kisses a picture of the comedian from the old picture from all those years ago and cries.
Life is complicated.
Yeah, disturbing.
Yes. And then the last part is the frontiersman goes, he's like, oh, put whatever you want on, we need something in the magazine. And he goes, he's eating a burger. He drops ketchup on the smiley shirt he's wearing. He's about to pick up Rorschach's journal, we think.
So as soon as I finish this part, that's when I put something in the group chat. So we're basically supposed to figure out that even though everyone thinks everything's okay and it's all good, the people in that time are still going to figure out that it was all just a big farce.
Right.
Well, look who's doing the telling, though. Like, it's the far-right nonsense paper. Who's going to believe it?
Oh, yeah, that's true, too.
I mean, history has proven that there's a good amount of people that would believe it.
Yeah, and how much power do they have around the world?
Not much. Maybe they're going to start their own TV news network, too. It starts with an F. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, and some guy will be on it every night and then bitch won't complain that M&Ms aren't sexy enough. Yeah, that'll never happen.
Yeah. And this person who's running the New Frontiersman is just going to keep talking about how the chemicals in the water are turning the frogs gay.
And that's Sandman.
That's Watchmen.
Oh, what the fuck? Wow. I'm tired.
Yeah.
I am tired. That wasn't on accident. That wasn't on purpose.
Don't edit that out. You leave that.
I'm not going to, actually. That was Watchmen. See, I don't drink very much anymore, and when you don't drink for a long time, you drink 2 beers because you want to make a 2 guns bitch joke, it does hit you after 2.5 hours of recording. It does hit you.
Sure. I had 2 beers during the course of this. I'm fine.
Yeah, but I didn't drink for 3 months.
Oh, okay. Well,
I mostly cut back, but my wife wanted me to make beer brats, so I bought beer. So of course I buy beer. I'm going to drink the beer after I make the brats. But I kept myself. I only bought a 12-pack. I didn't buy a 36-pack because I'm like, oh well, I need extra beer. Like, nope, we're just buying the 12-pack. We'll drink the beer and then we'll be done for a bit.
Yeah, I bought beer for brats too. I bought a 30-pack of Hams, which is a premium beer born in the land of sky blue water. Gotta love Hams, America's classic.
Nickel Golden Light, so just a beer. Nothing special.
Now I'm hungry.
Go get an American burger.
Already had a burger today. God damn it.
Hey, White Castle, the world is healed. White Castle is open still at this time. If White Castle isn't where you're at.
No, I wish the closest White Castle is a 4-hour drive there and a 4-hour drive back.
Well, guess what? It'll still be open by the time you get there at 2 in the morning. So
yeah,
they're open 24 hours. Oh, one of my friends had posted an image on Facebook. He's like, "The world is healing because White Castle is open 24 hours again." I'm like, you know what? You're not actually wrong. It's stupid and it's funny, but you're not wrong.
No. Thankfully, KCMO has won the Super Bowl twice, and they asked the quarterback what if he could have one thing here, what could it be? And so he said Whataburgers. So now we have 24-hour Whataburgers here. So that's an idea.
Yeah,
Whataburgers better than White Castle. So
oh yeah, it is.
White Castle's fucking shit.
Hey, you watch your damn mouth.
Oh, I hate White Castle. My wife loves White Castle. I'm like, terrible. Whataburger was good. All right, let's go to Shelf Stacker Box before I can't talk. So, and Ken, why don't you go first?
I mean, I could go first, and I guess I will. Obviously, this is going on the shelf for me. Like I said, this is probably double digits for me. I take this out a lot and just read it. I think about it a lot. I wonder what I would do in that situation. Ozymandias wasn't wrong. Yeah, definitely going on the shelf for me.
Okay. And what about you, Joe?
I would actually put this on the shelf. I was thinking about stacking it, but I do. It's a really good story. It's pretty long too. It's a good trifle through to read. Like you could probably sit there at a coffee shop and read it for 3 hours if you really wanted to. And it's just the right amount of realism, because a lot of stuff nowadays, give an example, The Boys is really, really top notch 11 gore. I feel like this is at a good solid 8 to where a lot of it's still really believable without being completely fucking absurd. Plus, with what Chris said, I completely agree too. This is a really good murder mystery up until it totally imploded on itself.
Yeah, which I never thought about until Chris mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
And Chris, what about you?
I'm also, I guess, going to put it on the shelf for the reasons we talked about. I think it's surprisingly funny. I think it works as a sort of takedown of superheroes that is written by someone that is clearly, read and understands. I mean, there's a, superhero comic artist, guy as a character in the book. He understands the medium and that it has this sort of conservative bent to it. I mean, again, part of it is based on the co-creator of Spider-Man and his weird real beliefs. He was a Ayn Rand follower, who was similar to Rorschach in some ways, as far as he was a absolutist, and that being an absolutist meant he stopped working for Marvel entirely. He stopped communicating with Stan Lee. He didn't make any money off of anything. And it's like, yeah, it seems kind of dumb ultimately to be morally correct and, just not successful. But I enjoy it on its own merits as well. I think it's a good story, but I think it's richer if you kind of know what it's, all the stuff it's referencing and what it's talking about.
Okay. And I'll go last. I'm going to put this in the box. I read this 3 times. I don't want to read this again. It's a good book. I give it credit for what it is. I'm glad I own a copy of it, but it's not for me. And that's just the thing. It's too depressing. And I think I'm also tired of, because after we did Sandman not that long ago, and now we're probably depending on when I publish these, it'll be right before you hear this for Comic Wise. So I don't know. This book doesn't grab me. It doesn't bring me back to want to read. But it is a very well written book. It's very good. I'm glad it exists. But it's going in the box, and I don't need to read it. I'm not reading it a 4th time. 3 was enough. And 2 were for this damn podcast. Still mad.
I'm going to figure out a way to make you read this again. It's going to be years from now, but I'm going to figure it out.
Welcome to the 200th comic episode where we reread the Watchmen.
Welcome to Watchmen Recovered. I'm Ken and I'm old.
Before we wrap this up, is there any point in reading like the other Watchmen stuff that they did, like the miniseries?
Not really. I mean, if you really love the characters, maybe, but I don't think Darwin Cook is way too beholden to the source material. Like the amount of trying to reform the comedian is pretty gross, I think, where he is this sort of paternalistic, like he's looking out for his daughter and he's helping out people, but he just comes off like a mean guy. I'm like, no, the comedian is like, he's just a straight up like fascist piece of shit. Like, you don't have to do this.
So just let things be.
Yeah.
Okay. I've never read them. I had no interest in reading them, but since I have you guys here, I was like, okay, these are the guys to ask.
If you want to get like a weird hot take, and I hope I don't try to like steer into a weird way, but I guess that you could say the idea, Laurie's mother had the idea that she wasn't really in love, or she was in love with the comedian, and it was in a bad way, but she could also be thankful that she liked her daughter. So I mean, that's one thing she'd be thankful for out of that whole situation that happened, and her daughter ended up being raised right and being a good person. So I mean, that's a decent way to look at it.
Yeah. Like, he's still a piece of shit, though.
Oh, he's still a piece of shit, yeah.
And, like, no amount of reform will really change that. Like, I don't care how much you're going back to be like, oh, let's retcon daddy feelings for him. Fuck that. Piece of shit. Just let people be pieces of shit, man.
Yeah.
Like, this book is full of them. Everybody in this book is a piece of shit in their own special way. And I said it at the top of the show. Everybody sucks in this book. Every one of them.
I mean, Night Owl's pretty nice. He's just kind of a doofus.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he has no confidence in himself unless he's wearing the costume. Like, he's got his identity tied up in that costume so much that he forgot to be a real person when he's out of it.
Right.
So, yeah, he kind of fucking sucks. Like, I think he sucks the least. Like,
yes, he's the least bad person full of bad people.
Yeah, like, he and Laurie are probably the ones that suck the least, but Laurie fucking sucks too. Like, they all suck. Yeah. Rorschach sucks the most.
Yeah, that's why he's in the starter pack of characters you idolize. There's something wrong with you.
Like, he's horrible.
There are people out there that idolize Rorschach for some reason.
Because he's telling it like it is, Mike.
Yeah. He only beats up the bad guys. It's like he has a special bad guy detector that always makes him morally correct.
Like
that's why he goes in random bars and breaks people's fingers. Yep. Okay.
He even said in that first case he broke a lot of wrong fingers trying to get information when he was looking for that little girl. So,
but no, I am glad that we read this book, and I'm glad that I read it a 3rd time. I'm done. So now I'm looking at Doomsday Clock. Like, I want to read that.
Oh boy.
Boo.
I've not read all of that, but I can't imagine it's good.
I haven't read it either. Did I actually buy that? I feel like I bought that
The
accidentally.
trade or the comics when it was coming out?
The trade.
Oh.
Did I buy it? I bought the trade.
Physical or digital?
Digital, of course.
Okay.
I'm not going to pay real money for this. Oh
You
my
didn't pay
god.
real money.
Oh my god, why the hell did I do this to myself? Oh my no.
Is this a sign that you're telling me you want to cover it next?
Nope.
I might read it, actually. I'm tempted to read it now that I reread Watchmen. We'll see. I think I need to read something happy.
Oh my god. No. No.
All right, we should wrap
Because
up. And Chris, where can people find you at?
You can find me on my book club podcast. Some of my friends read comics with Vince, who's been on this show before. And you can also find me on my other podcast, Your Stupid Minds, where we review bad movies.
Oh, right. And if you enjoyed this comic episode, there's 49 other comic episodes you go listen to. I'm proud that we made it to 50. The movie episodes hit 50, comic episodes hit 50. Well, movie episodes are way past that. We count the MCU, but that didn't matter. But it makes me proud. It makes me proud that we have that many spin-off episodes. Stuff. So go check out all that. We have over 450 other episodes in our giant catalog. You can find everything on our website on Podbean. You can type in Batman, type in Zelda, type in any word you want, Daredevil, you'll find stuff. We have so much content. So just type in things, see what comes up, and see what catches your eye. There's lots of content that we do. We do games, movies, comics, TV seasons. We do whatever I can convince people to talk with me about. So definitely go do that if you want to support the show. We do a Patreon for little as a dollar. You can vote in our Patreon polls. There's usually one every month. You'll see a link in the show notes to that. We also have a Discord channel. You'll see a link in the show notes to that. And want to give a shout out to my awesome intro and outro, courtesy of Helena at Hell Hasfury. Please go follow her on TikTok. She made our awesome music. And want to give a shout out to my buddy Bill Tucker, who started his own podcast, The Gamer Looks at 40. So definitely go check his show out. And please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. I think that's everything I need to say. So we will see you guys all next time. Bye, everybody.
Come on.